All right, good afternoon. So I call the regular meeting of the Wildomar City Council and Cemetery District meeting to order at 6:11 p.m. Roll call, please.
Councilmember DiFilippo. Here. Councilmember Moore.
Here.
Councilmember Morabito.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nig. Mayor Marquez.
Here. Councilmember Morabito, can you lead us in the flag salute?
Yeah. All right, everybody stand up. Face the flag, right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Attorney, are there any reportable announcements from closed session?
Thank you. The City Council met in closed session with respect to the one item on the closed session agenda, and there is no reportable action, and that concludes the report.
All right, thank you. There are no presentations scheduled. There are no department reports scheduled. So now we're going to move on to public comments. This is the time where the City Council receives general public comments regarding any items or matters within the jurisdiction that do not appear on the agenda. Per the Brown Act, the City Council members are not allowed to respond to public comments not on the agenda. City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Yes, first speaker is Olivia Gregory.
Test.
That's good right there. Okay. Yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Olivia Gregory. I would like to share my school report with you all. I will tell you about what I want to be when I grow up. When I grow up, I want to be a paleontologist. This is a very special job because the study of fossils tells us about the past and help predict the future. To get to my goal, I will need to finish both a high school and university education. However, this special job requires special skills as well. I will need both patience and time management. This would help me get a bachelor's degree and later a master's degree and PhD. What I really like about paleontology are the tools used for the job. For example, I will use items like chisels, brushes, magnifying glasses, shovels, and pickaxes. Now, paleontologists work in social environments. I will cooperate with other scientists such as geologists, biologists, and many others. If you would kindly look at my poster, you would see an image of my life as a paleontologist. I drew myself wearing a uniform that I would not be afraid to get dirty. The tools I mentioned earlier are pictured right next to me. There are also many others that I did not have room to draw. My character stands on an excavation site. Flags mark fossils found underground. On my poster, you can also see examples of dinosaur bones. I drew a T-Rex skull, a fossil spine, a Triceratops skull, and a model of a flying dinosaur. I'm Olivia Gregory. Thank you all.
How old are you, Olivia?
I am 7.
You did a great job.
Thank you, Olivia. Great job with public speaking today. Thank you so much for attending our meeting.
Elaine Sanders.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Elaine, but I normally go by Eve, and I live at the Affordable Housing Project here in Wildomar. I'm not just speaking to the City Council tonight, I'm speaking to the people of Wildomar and the residents in this room and everyone watching online. I want to share something important about the community I live in. There are people in affordable housing who want to work. People who are motivated, capable, and ready ready to contribute to the city, but many of us are not receiving the support needed to actually access employment. Some residents don't have a current resume, some don't have recent job history, and transportation is a major barrier. These are not signs of unwillingness. They're signs of people who have been trying to climb without a ladder. I want the community to understand this clearly. There are hardworking individuals in my housing community who would take pride in their jobs and in the given community if they were given the opportunity. They want to earn their way forward. They want to be a part of a local workforce, and when people are given a chance, instead of being written off, they rise to it. That's why I'm here tonight. I want to help create a bridge between residents who are ready to work and the businesses in Wildomar who need reliable workers. I'm willing to help build that connection, but I need to be honest. Networking, organizing, and coordinating people is real work. It takes time, energy, and skill. And I can no longer afford to be doing this for free. If local businesses, nonprofits, or community partners are interested in collaborating, I'm open to discussing ways this role can be supported or compensated, because when this work is supported, it doesn't just help the residents, it strengthens the entire city. When people start working, they begin spending their money locally, supporting local businesses, and contributing to Wildomar's economic growth. There is one major challenge, though. Under the current program rules, once a single individual earns more than $23,000 a year, they risk losing their housing. To put that into perspective, at 20 hours a week, that's about $22.11 an hour. At 25 hours a week, it's about $17.69 an hour. And at 30 hours a week, it's about $14.74 an hour. This means residents are forced to choose between staying housed and advancing economically. That is not a sustainable path to long-term stability. I also want to share something personal because it shows how committed I am to this work. Tonight, I'm actually missing the orientation for my internship, something extremely important for my education and my future career, because I believe this message matters that much. I believe our city needs to hear this. I believe our residents deserve to be seen, and I believe Wildomar deserves solutions that uplift everyone. I'm a full-time student preparing for my hypnotherapy internship. I'm doing everything right. I'm in school, building a career, and trying to move forward. But there are required programs and tools for my online schooling that I cannot afford. That's part of where this idea came to me. I'm trying to build a future, and I want to help others do the same. But the support systems in place don't fully meet the needs of people who are actively trying to improve their lives. Before I go, and with that, I'm going to head out and try to catch the last part of my orientation of my internship. Thank you guys for your time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Elaine, for those comments, and get to your orientation safely.
Gareth Thornton.
Hello again. I'd like to share my array of notices and citations. I spoke at the last meeting. I'm here to speak again. There has been a little bit of movement, so to speak, on working on the issues, but I did want to say a few things. Animal control is giving me tickets based on what code enforcement is saying, and code enforcement is saying that I can't use my vacant lot. I have combed over the Title 17 thoroughly, and I cannot find anything that says I cannot use a vacant lot that is adjacent to my lot where I live. I have found a summary. Hold on while I find it. I'm trying to hurry. It says, yes, you can generally use a vacant or an adjacent lot as part of your yard in Wildomar, California, as long as you abide by the local laws. It says the quickest path to that is to adjust the lot line. But if you choose not to do that, you have to get permits if you want to build a structure. You can't put a pool that straddles the two lots. You can have a fence around both properties, but you have to abide by the fencing rules. I bought my house with the properties both fenced together as one lot. As far as the use of the lot goes, it's causing me to have an overage of dogs. For 24 years, I have lived there and I've always had more than 4 dogs. I bought that house with the understanding that I could have 4 dogs per parcel. Now, animal control is saying no because I can't use the vacant lot. And because I can't use the vacant lot, I'm over on dogs. That same entity that's telling me code enforcement says I can't, code enforcement says, well, you got to go back to, or I'm sorry, Mr. Flores actually said you have to go back to animal control about that. Well, no, because they're telling me they're basing it on code enforcement. The bottom line is they have licensed dogs on both properties in the past. It's never been a problem before until I spoke at the city planning meeting, the special meeting they had about changing the limits of animals. I'm not trying to be accusatory, but it is very suspicious that that happened right after that. Quickly, the code enforcement officer was at my house 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 now, and he said that the reason I didn't get any notices before is because I'd never been caught. But he was there, and I'm doing everything exactly the same that I was doing when he was there 5 or 6 or however many years ago. We discussed it. He had, he said you can't have the canopies and the structure that you've got with the tarps on it. And I said, that's my hay storage. And he goes, and the canopies are for shade for the animals. He says, well, you need the place to store your hay and shade for your animals, so get rid of all the garbage in front and I'll close the case. And he closed the case. I had no reason to think that this was going to happen again. When Keith Ross was here, he determined that I could have the livestock based on a lot of research that he did. He brought me a stack of papers like that, which I have lost because it's been many years ago, showing me what I needed to show animal control about being able to have the livestock. So with that being said, I'm hoping that my meeting that we're supposed to arrange will be fruitful, but I want everyone to be aware that I'm not doing anything I haven't already been doing the whole time I've been at this house. And I simply want to continue doing that. Like I said last time, out of all my dogs, the majority of them are 11 years old or older. One of them is 16. One of them has cancer. One of them might have cancer. Okay? My numbers are going to reduce themselves naturally, sooner rather than later. If I try and place my young dogs and then I lose my old dogs, I don't have my dogs that I had. If I can't place the old dogs, I can't place the sick dogs, I'm going to let them live their life out as long as they have a decent quality of life. And when that changes, I will make the hard decision that comes with animal ownership. But until then, I just want to enjoy the same lifestyle that I've had for 24 years without being worried about getting these on my fence and accumulating fine after fine after fine that I can't afford. Thank you.
Next speaker, Andy Morris.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. It's very nice to be here. I'm Andy Morris, Board President, Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District. Just wanted to give a quick update on our Setco Septic to Sewer project. As you know, the district was able to get grants from the State Water Resources Control Board, free money, to move people over in the Setco area from septic to our sewer. It's a great project. It's going very well. We're getting really, really close to start construction in there. And I just want to let you know that we had our first pop-up event there in the town right there by our park off of Malaga right there. And we had 75 residents come out. It was a great meeting. This Saturday, we're going to have another pop-up event. It's going to be from 9 to 11 at the Mission Trail Liquor parking lot. There won't be liquor. There will be actually water and donuts. Just want to make sure you guys are clear on that. But they were nice enough to let us use their parking lot for this pop-up event. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of that. And if they have any questions, even if they came to the first one, they can come to the second one. And we're really, really excited about getting that project underway. We have a similar project up in the avenues in Lake Elsinore. It's going very, very well. People are super happy. Construction's been going good. And if you guys don't know, we're talking about ripping out their entire septic system, which sometimes means taking out their driveways, taking out structures, and then rebuilding it all back to the way it was. So it's a pretty major project. So, and if you haven't noticed, we got some work on Mission Trail. That's part of this whole thing. We need to upgrade our sewer system down to our regional lift station down by the Storm Stadium. So we're doing a big jack and bore project down Mission Trail. So for all the Wildomar residents, if you can avoid Mission Trail, not a bad idea. If you can't, I apologize right now. We do have a lot of traffic control up in that area, and we've worked diligently with the city and with the city of Lake Elsinore to make it as good as we possibly can. We're talking for the next, 9 months. It's going to be pretty painful through there. So if you can avoid the area, that would be great. And just lastly, I just want to remind our residents that the Water District has some amazing programs for people that are struggling financially. We have our RARE program, which is for both water and sewer. So if you want any information about that, please call the district. Our customer service is ready to help those. And we have a brand new program called the Crisis Assistance Program. This is a one-time money for people that maybe have had a death in the family, they've had something happen, and they're short on funds one time. We're able to give one-time funds for them to help them with their water bill. So just want to let everybody know out there that we're thinking about people, that we really do care about them. We are a utility and we can't spend ratepayer funds, but we come up with some pretty interesting ideas to help people, and we just want people to know they can reach out to the Water District. Thank you and have a good evening.
Andy, before you step away, the pop-up event, what does that entail?
So, for somebody who's about to have their house ripped up, it's an opportunity for them to come out and talk to the engineers, to the contractors. We have Spanish-speaking interpreters there. Most of the people that came, of the 75 that came, 72 of them spoke Spanish. Okay. So we had interpreters there, and they're asking questions like, what's going to happen when you guys are ripping out my house? Or am I going to be able to flush the toilet? Yeah. Am I going to, and what are you going to do when I can't, where am I going to park? Okay. I mean, it's a whole skew.
So it's more of an FYI for people that have already enrolled in the program. This is not for new people to enroll, correct?
This is not. Okay. But, however, as you know, a lot of people did not enroll because maybe they were scared. Maybe they're a new owner. And luckily enough, we have enough money that if people still want to opt in, they still can opt in. So that's a great question. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Stephanie Lauderdale.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie. I just wanted to bring up something. The business on 25765 Law Australia, the private dirt road, is still operating. But I wanted to ask, and I've talked to, probably 80% of my neighbors, and they all want to see if we could discuss it with you all and put it on an agenda for all of us to be able to speak what's going on and to say what is happening on this private dirt road. It is a one-way in and out. And so we know that's the business is, operating illegally. So we would like to sit down and talk if there's a way we could put it on the agenda. Thank you.
Stephanie, sorry, before you go, can you repeat the address?
25765 La Estrella Road, Wildomar.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No other speakers.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
You, of course, have a motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we now move on to the consent calendar. City Clerk, are there any public comments on the consent calendar items?
Yes. Monty Goddard on agenda items 1.8, 1.9, 1.16, and 1.17.
Good evening, and while since I've been here, and I wouldn't even be commenting on this consent calendar if I wasn't here for agenda item 3.4. But I did want to say this. Once again, buried in the consent calendar, there's 4 items that I found interesting. As you know, I served the first 2 years on the Major Z Oversight Committee. So when these annual reports show up a year after the conclusion of the period being reported on, I always take a cursory review of them. The Major AA one passed my bar. The Major Z one did not. There's 5 members of that committee at the time. One of the things I know is a duty of a committee member is to do an annual walkthrough of the park in the month of June to assess the condition of the park for the then representing the prior 12 months. One person did that on the report that you have in the consent calendar. That's unsat, in my opinion. I don't know who oversights the oversight committee, but if someone's going to get their name on city letterhead, they need to do their job. Thank you. Okay, moving on. There's 2 other items in the consent calendar. 16, which is resolution approving certain contracts and authorizing the city manager to approve projects if they've been put in the budget. That got me thinking about something that's been kind of a sore point for me for months, and that was the Wildomar strategic plan that came before you guys 4 or 5 months ago as to whether or not you wanted to go out for an RFP. You debated it, and it was kind of a half-hearted, but yeah, approved, let's go get an RFP. The next time that thing showed up, and I was looking for it, the next time it showed up, it was an agenda item by itself that was asking for an increase in the authorization of funds so the contract could be awarded. I went, huh? But when the meeting started that night, it got pulled from the agenda. About a month or so later, you were approving the big mega budget agenda item, and it was a 1-line bullet among a bunch of other bullets on a briefing by staff that said, that just listed the strategic plan. I have a question for you guys. Do you know if it's been awarded? Do you know how much it is? Do you know what the contractor is? Moving on. Agenda item 1.17, 6th Amendment to design professional services for the Palomar project by the cemetery. I have a question. If that firm is still under contract, I think the city ought to ask them for a written explanation of why we have that concrete slab in the lane, the southbound lane, directly past Gruel. I know what it's supposed to be. It should be flopped over on the side of the road and it would be a bus turnout. But it's not. It's in the road, in the one and only traffic lane. I'd just like an explanation of why that's there. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty.
No other speakers on the consent calendar.
Jason, would you like to respond to 117? Was it 116 or sorry, 117?
Yep. Yeah. So I think the bus pad that Mr. Goddard's referring to is the one across from the cemetery closest to Gruel Street. So the design of the project did include a concrete bus pad there. I guess the best way I could describe it is that was a design oversight in that there's not enough lane width at that location for a bus to be in the lane without obstructing traffic. So we are coordinating with RTA to identify an alternative bus stop location other than that. Unfortunately, the concrete is already in the ground, so it still serves the purpose of the functioning for the roadway and the lane. But the location of the bus stop won't be there because it will block traffic. We did ask the designer about that decision and the history behind it. Their recollection was that in the early stages with coordination with RTA did ask for the bus stop to be located there. Why it wasn't identified as conflicting with the lane width, I don't know. But we are working with RTA to try to identify a more appropriate location for it.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Chris, would you like to answer Monty's question for item 116?
Actually, I'd ask our city attorney to address that. This is an item that originated before my time here. Also, as the city manager, it might seem rather self-serving if I advocated for it myself. Our city attorney has the long history of this item. I'd like to ask him to address that. Sure. 1.16 just allows your city manager to approve certain contracts that have already been approved in the city's budget, as long as there are no changes to the form contracts that are in your agenda packet tonight. If there are changes to the form language in those contracts that are in the agenda tonight, then those changes would have to come to the city council for approval.
All right, so maybe we can circle back with Monty specifically on the question he has.
Can I ask a question on that? So then there's no changes, we're just, this said sunset, and now we're just extending it?
Correct. About a year and a half ago, council approved this exact same resolution with a termination date, and so that previous resolution expired, and now it's before you again to renew the same action that you approved about a year and a half ago.
And is this without a sunset this time? Or we're coming back in a year and a half, 2 years?
It does have a sunset of 1 year.
Okay, well,
Correct, yeah.
thank you.
All right. All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Of course you do.
I'd like to, I did have a comment on another one too, since Monty had brought it up on 1.8 about the 5 members, the annual walkthrough. I agree with that there's very little that the members are asked to do and to walk really, I guess there's 3 parks. And I mean, at some point we'll have more on there, but somehow we need to impress upon them that go ahead and walk through the parks if you want to be on the Measure Z committee. I don't know how we can do that other than.
Well, yeah, going forward, but tonight we're accepting the report tonight, right? So.
Right. Well.
Yeah. No, but I agree.
I think maybe to answer your question more directly, Joseph, who's the person that they don't report to, but
I suppose we could form a oversight committee.
Yeah, you want to ask?
Yeah, can we ask if, have they completed it? I guess Mr. Torres is coming up. They just didn't get it in time for the report. Has it been completed by the other 4?
Yes, good evening, Council. Daniel Torres, your Public Works Manager. And so, yes, I work with the Measure Z Oversight Committee alongside our Finance Manager, Adam Jantz. And so within the 2 of us, we provide the quarterly meetings, and we present to them the annual report for their review with their comments. As part of the annual report, as stated by Mr. Monty Goddard, they are required to do an inspection or walkthrough of the parks annually. This would then conclude and review, as we have gone through all 4 quarters of the budget and that we've presented to them. They'll go and review the park current status and then provide their comments. And so what we do after the fiscal year is send them that template and provide them a deadline to submit, and that this way we could then develop the the annual report. Throughout that time frame, yes, only 1 committee member did submit a review, and I would say also at that time there was a transition of board members. Sorry, not board members, committee members at that time, and so it might have been a reason of why not to submit a annual report or an annual inspection. But again, as stated, that's usually the protocol is to have them after the fiscal year's closing to go and submit a annual inspection and then add that to the annual report.
Thank you, Daniel. Tom, let me know if this is okay to discuss or not, or it could be brought back as a future item. But maybe we needed to get quote unquote report cards on our committee members on if they're actually following what is being asked of them when their terms come up, right?
I would also like to add real quick too that we were having this issue, and so about a year ago we brought a resolution to align all of our committee members' terms to expire in December, and it kind of made it easier for tracking purposes and for these reports so that they are still on the committee within the fiscal year, because sometimes their term would expire before that fiscal year ended. So the new committee members who were not present weren't able to complete the reports as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. You have a motion.
All right, I'm looking for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, we now move on to public hearings. We have 2.1, public hearing for delinquent trash charges for 2025, presented by our finance manager, Adam Jantz. Adam, I'm not used to you being over there. I was looking for you to come up. All right.
Oh, apologies. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, fellow city staff, and members of the public. My name is Adam Jansen. I'm the finance manager here at the city of Wildomar, and I'm here to introduce to you tonight the public hearing for delinquent trash charges for calendar year 2025. So this is an annual item that the city does every year. CRNR handles all of the billing and receipts for trash charges, but our franchise agreement stipulates that the city uses authority to place unpaid trash charges on the Riverside County tax roll to be applied to residents' property taxes over the next fiscal year. So a notice of intent to hold public hearing was passed at the previous city council meeting, and notices of delinquency were sent to all residents on the listing, and a public notice was posted in the press enterprise twice leading up to the hearing. So as you know, the city transitioned from a dual waste hauler to a single waste hauler city in December 2022. And so the delinquencies are all from the waste hauler CRNR. Totals for this listing are 798 property owners, totaling $419,225, and include a 10% penalty and $48 flat admin fee from CRNR. Now, this list is not final. Those on the delinquency list are still able to pay and avoid having the charges placed on the tax roll and avoid the admin fee and penalty. The final cutoff date for payments will be July 24th. If they pay before that date, they will avoid the fees. And after that, a final listing will be sent to the city from CRNR, and we will submit it to the fixed charge packet portal by August 14th to be placed on the tax roll. Payments are to be made with the CRNR directly, and if there are any disputes or concerns, representatives from CRNR are here to assist. And that concludes my introduction to the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And Tom, I apologize, I didn't open the public hearing prior to the presentation.
It's open.
It's open now, 6:43. All right, does council have any questions? No? None? Any public comments?
Yes, first speaker, I'm not sure if he's still here, Sayed. I think he may have been resolved, if they were able to resolve it prior to the meeting. Next speaker is Philip Young.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Marquez and council members. My name is Philip Arthur Young, and I live on Bonnie Lane in Wildomar, California. I apologize and beg your forgiveness as I need to read my speech due to my disabilities. I am an 80-year-old, 100% rated, permanent and total American veteran. I am here tonight to ask for your help with a situation regarding my trash service. Bonnie Lane is a very short dead-end road that the city doesn't currently maintain. Because of that, the residents personally take on the responsibility of the cost of keeping the road in good shape, including filling the potholes ourselves. The heavy trucks driving back and forth our short road cause significant wear and tear. We just recently finished filling the potholes, and it's disheartening to see regular traffic from these trucks undoing our hard work and personal investment we put into the road. Regarding my own trash service, I have accumulated a balance of $352.74. I haven't been using the city's collection service because I simply can't afford the costly month. Furthermore, I generate very little waste, usually only 1 or 2 shopping bags of trash every 2.5 months or so. I have been responsibly self-hauling this myself for 3 years, and I have permission to use a dumpster at the recycling center where I take my recycling items. I also have permission at several locations where I have for the last 3 years removed recyclable items from their trash cans to use their trash cans for my trash. I have applied for a self-haul permit so I continue managing my small amount of waste independently. I am also respectfully asking the council to consider waiving my current balance of $352.74 because of no service rendered. I'm just looking for a way to manage my household waste that's affordable and appropriate for the small amount of trash I produce. I appreciate any guidance or help you can provide me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for your comments. I see Barbara and Alex.
Needs correction. Your nameplate needs this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No questions, but we do have some representatives from CRNR in the back. Barbara, Alex.
They're going to be calling me.
I would say allegedly. They're going to be doing it. They're pretty spot on.
They have a good track
They're
record
good.
of getting back to our residents.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
No other public comments.
All right, I will now close the public hearing at 6:47 p.m. Are there any comments up here from the dais? No.
I'll make a motion.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Was that for comments?
Whenever because this is a yearly thing.
Yeah.
And so maybe people don't understand that trash services, it's not an option. I guess if you can get a self-haul permit, but that's not a normal thing. And so for frequently people that are on this list, it's because they rent a home out and the renters are not paying it, and so it goes back to the property owner. And so once a year when we do this, I suggest people, if you're in that situation, have that part of the rent that you charge and pay it yourself, because otherwise I see this every year where this ends up back here. So that's all.
I do mine yearly. I just pay it before the July 26th just because it's just easier for me that way. So
See? That's another way.
yeah.
All right. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-32?
You do.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Now we'll be moving on to public hearing, item 2.2. This is for the authorization of commercial and roll-off rate adjustment for solid waste collection services for SB 1383, procurement, compliance, and second amendment to the city waste hauler franchise agreement with CRNR, presented again by our finance manager, Mr. Adam Jantz. And I will now open the public hearing at 6:48 p.m.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a public hearing to introduce a rate adjustment for SB 1383 procurement for the city of Wildomar. So to give a summary of SB 1383, so it is known as the Short-Lived Climate Pollutant Reduction Law. The goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by reducing methane emissions originating from landfills. And the aim to do this is by diverting organic waste from landfills via composting, edible food recovery, and procurement requirements from agencies, and is overseen by the agency CalRecycle. So the city of Wildomar has a procurement requirement of about 3,000 tons of recycled organic waste each calendar year. The amount does increase over time. Failure to meet these targets can result in daily fines, potentially in the thousands. And it can be met through usage of mulch, compost, through the purchase of mulch, compost, and usage of recycled natural gas. So currently, the city has been meeting this requirement through the purchase of compost and from CRNR and CRNR's recycled natural gas usage in its trucks. About a third from the trucks, and the rest is purchased with compost. The city has been using a grant to purchase and spread the compost. However, this grant is scheduled to end in November of 2026. Currently, the city spends about a little over $50,000 per year to meet these targets, although funded by the grant until the end of this year. So with this problem, CRNR has come to the city with a proposal to do a one-time rate adjustment of 2.99% on commercial and roll-off customers. So CRNR will procure the compost on the city's behalf to meet each year's target, and even as the targets increase, they will continue to do that on behalf. They will distribute the compost on the city's behalf. The city will not have to store the material in its own corporate yards. They will handle all the reporting to CalRecycle to ensure the city receives credit for this, so we are not fined. And they will also give us free compost upon request for city usage and its residents. So the average commercial customer with the average commercial customer with a 3 cubic yard bin and 1 service per week will see an increase of only $1.73 per week. Now, it's important to note that this is separate from the CPI increase, which this year is 3.52%, and the former waste management customer catch-up, which is 3% on certain customers, depending on their rates. These are already approved per the current franchise agreement and would go forward regardless of any Prop 218 requirements. So this proposal will save the city about $55,000 to $75,000 each year going forward, plus staff time on compliance and storage of the materials. And that summarizes my introduction to this public hearing. And I'm open to any questions on the item, and we have CRNR representatives here as well.
All right. Does the city council have any questions?
So the initial, the 2.99%, you said it's like $1 something a week. Yeah, that's one thing. And then the other two, I mean, how many businesses are going to get this nice little punch in the mouth?
So there's we have 181 commercial customers and about 15 roll-off customers.
And so it applies to all of them, because it sounded like there's some waste management, like.
So those are customers. So previously we had a 2 waste hauler. When there were 2 waste haulers, waste management was east of the 15. CRNR was west of it. So one of the rates for commercial customers were not always equalized between them. So there's an additional adjustment, and it varies based on the rate category. That allows an extra 3% until the rates for CRNR for waste management customers equalize with the rates of the CRNR customers.
Okay, so then.
And that is per the franchise agreement.
Sure. I'm just saying that so when it sounded like $1.75-ish a week, if it's.
It's $90 a year. Yeah.
Well, no, but that's for that. But then
that's for
the other regular CPI plus then for those other unlucky customers, it sounds closer to 10%. I mean, that's okay. We're not sure if that's like 15 various businesses or. Okay. I feel for you guys. Sorry, nobody wants to have a 10% increase, but I guess that's how it goes.
But wait, so it's $1.73 a week.
So for
the 181 commercial businesses.
So it will be for the CPI and the 3% are already prescribed per the franchise agreement. So the public hearing for this is for the 2.99%. So that 2.99% would only be an extra $1.73 per week for that.
Right, but to the average, and I respect that. I get that. This is not something that's really up for vote. I mean, it's a done deal. But I'm just saying that for the average person that's got a business, this will feel like it's coming out of nowhere because people don't realize it's every year.
So it was 181 customers, commercial customers, and the 15 roll-offs. So the $1.73 is not on a residential property.
Correct. The proposal is only for the commercial and roll-offs. So the other 2 items, as per the franchise agreement, those are separate items which would go forward even without the 2.99%.
All right. Are there any public comments?
No public comments.
So I will now close the public hearing at 6:54 p.m. Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-33 and authorize the second amendment to the franchise agreement?
Yeah, you have a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. We now move on to general business. Item 3.1, adoption of the fiscal year 2026-27, amended budget, job descriptions, classification schedule, and pay plan presented by Adam. You're on the hot seat today, man.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. As we are now in the final month of fiscal year 25-26, which is the first year of our biennial budget, we are now looking at our second year of our biennial budget, which is fiscal year 26-27. And so we are bringing forward the proposed amendments to the current, the second year of the biennial budget to make the fiscal year 26-27 amended budget. Staff's proposed general fund budget out of an estimated fund balance at the end of 25-26, which of course is still not complete, of about 9.5 is for operating revenue of about $22,022,800, and expenditures of $23,072,100, with a net transfers in of $571,800. This will result in a projected ending balance of $9,036,000. So this maintains our required reserves while allowing the city to make certain improvements to service delivery. You will notice we are proposing to expend some general fund balance in fiscal year 26-27 on some one-time items that I will discuss shortly. To give you an overview, though, of our current 5-year forecast. So currently we have adjusted our revenues to be more in line with actuals without being too overly optimistic. Over the last few years, property tax remittances have been seeing 6 to 7% growth rates due to ongoing reassessments of properties that saw significant increases in valuations in the last few years. So we're using conservative 5% estimates on these. We are also seeing increases in our VLF property tax, which we are adjusting for our VLF in lieu. We've had 9% increases over the last year, so we're adjusting to be more in line with a 7% growth rate. But as you can see, our reserve balances we are able to maintain our stipulated reserves per our fund balance reserve policy, and also maintain a structurally balanced budget over the 5-year projections. So we will stay in around the 9 to 10 million mark over that period. So the key takeaways are that the general fund budget is fiscally stable in the near term due to the strong reserves and the city's policy of conservative growth, where we're very careful to always, before we add additional services, to look at those services to ensure that we have adequate padding to maintain those services if there were any shocks, so that we don't have to reduce service levels. However, long-term sustainability can still be sensitive to certain items such as economic conditions and rising public safety costs over time. However, even with our current reserves, even with a couple years of a drop in revenue, we can maintain prolonged shocks through short-term recessions. Now, back to the items for one-time expenditure items that we are proposing. So there are 2 items of note that we are asking to utilize fund balance for this year. One of them is the one-time usage of fund balance for City Hall renovations. So of this, though, it is spread throughout several different fund sources. The main one is in the general fund. We are looking to appropriate $300,000 to improve the City Hall, to add a pad and a generator on the building so that we can maintain service during community outages like we've had in the past. Usually if there is outages occur, we usually have to shut down services. So this will help allow us to continue service delivery to residents when the residents are most in need during power outages and other catastrophic events.
Adam, real quick, would that come into play when we have like a public safety power shutoff, like the PSPS? Okay.
Yes, so those would shut in and we could maintain, because legally if the building shuts down, unless we have certain things in place, generally we have to vacate the building. So this would allow us to continue to maintain City Hall, the service delivery through City Hall in the event of if there's any emergency or outages that could come.
Whatever, yeah.
We also have, and now this item is not in the general fund, $128,000 for ADA renovations to improve our ramps, to improve accessibility to the community. We have dividends from CIRA and some monies from the business registration CAS fees that can be used for ADA improvements to improve the ramps and walkways for the City Hall. We also have $150,000 in 510 for bond proceeds. With our CFD bonds that can be used for structural improvements such as replacing the roof. This building is just about as old as the city, and the roof is getting close to its replacement, end of getting closer to its end of life for when you want to start to look at replacing them. We do have significant bond proceeds at $295,000 premium from our last issue, just Avellino, and we'll have other bond premiums in the future to utilize for this, but we have that on there in case so that we can make improvements to that as it is a needed item in the future. And also $50,000 in the AQMD fund for our AB 2766 funds to improve our current charging station for repairs and upgrades for electric vehicles, which we will eventually have to move into. The other item is for new development software. So currently the city utilizes its original program, Eden, for permitting, even though we've added C-Click for some of the repairs and on-site items, and also NetSuite for governments. For finance, we are still utilizing Eden, the original software, for permitting, which does not have any integration with our other software. So we're currently having to take items from that and then move them into the other systems manually, basically double receipting items. And also it is an older program, admittedly. So we are bringing forth a budget in this to add the new licenses for the software that was selected by our Community Development Department, OpenGov. In addition to that, so it's about $34,000 for the software and $20,000 for implementation fees. But in order to do the implementations, which are, I can tell from my own experience, is a significant amount of investment, time investment, for $205,000 in general fund for staff augmentation during implementation, to either help directly implement it if a consultant can be found, or to free up current staff to then do that implementation, which includes a lot of items in order to go live, pulling old data from the old system and converting it to put in the new one, and then improving all the processes and building up integrations. So on that note, summarize our general fund revenues. What we have projected, our revenues proposed are $22,800,000. Our largest revenue sources for the general fund are property taxes at about 32% and intergovernmental at 20%, which is the VLF in lieu fees, which are actually property taxes that replaced our original VLF fees. The other followed by licenses and permits, which are development revenue and sales taxes. For general fund expenditures, we propose $23,072,100. The largest general fund expenditures are overall public safety at about 48%, with police being the largest section, largest subset of that, followed by general government and community development. In addition, we have some personnel adjustments proposed. So the only the only additional new full-time position that we're proposed to add is the addition of a planning tech to streamline the Community Development Department's planning division for a tech starting second quarter to give time for recruitment. There's also reclassifications in public works for the maintenance team to adjust it from currently the maintenance worker 1-2s to add to help accommodate the final vision of the teams, to have one lead maintenance worker that will lead each of the landscape and the road maintenance team, and then a senior maintenance worker to then do the higher level items on the team. There's also the creation of an associate engineer 1-2 and associate civil engineer to allow for growth in that department. In addition to that, there are two items that I also have to report on orally. So before the City Council takes a final action on this item, I will summarize the proposed compensation actions pursuant to the Brown Act. That this proposed action includes a 3% cost of living adjustment applicable to unrepresented employee classifications, excluding the city manager classification, and an adjustment to the salary schedule for the assistant to the city manager classification, assigning that classification to grade 832 with an annual salary range of $148,033 to $184,849. And that concludes my oral report of those items per the Brown Act. In terms of revenue adjustments for the general fund, so as noted previously, we are proposing to increase our projections for property taxes to be more in line with our actuals of a conservative 5% over the prior year, and projecting that out. And also our current average, which has been over time for the VLF fees of 7%, and that's in line with our prior averages that we tend to get on those. And also to increase the interest income to reflect continued high rates on the bond and money market accounts, and also our sales and use tax for AA, which has continued to increase with the cost of living. So for proposed general fund expenditure adjustments, we do have several proposals to add temporary staffing assistance for human resources during negotiations. For contract staff assistance, $50,000. We also have an adjustment for our general liability insurance, which will increase at least 10%. So we have $130,000 projected on that. We're also adding to the city manager department the federal advocacy, Kylie Associates, which was approved in one of the quarterly meetings for fiscal year 25-26, but was not in the original biennial budget. And also $35,000 budget for special projects, and the moving of the Consultants and Sons to the city manager department where it is managed. We're also rolling over the remaining balance of the PO for the city's ongoing records retention and scanning project of $72,800. And we're also adjusting the animal shelter to be in line with the adjustments to the city's allocation for the operations costs that were changed after the initial proposed budget. Some of the other items proposed are to add contract admin assistant for the front desk to maintain the front desk while community development implements the continues to maintain the front desk for and also $110,000 in the community development department for ongoing development agreement negotiations and ones that will come up over time, as well as $50,000 for preparatory work regarding to the housing element, which will be beginning in a few years. There's also an adjustment to add back in $204,000 for a contract building plan check due to the reclassification of the plans examiner position, as we'll continue to outsource those items. Also adding in the public safety department, which was added in the mid-year for 25-26, but was not in the original fiscal year 26-27 budget. And also adding in the adjustments that we received in a few months ago for the contract cost for policing for the 7.25% admin rate increase, which we initially projected to be 5%. And also adding in the fire safety specialist that was approved in the during one of the quarterly budget updates at 25-26. Some of the other adjustments, we are also asking for $170,000 in the AB 2766, which is the South Coast Air Quality Management District Fund for 2 electric vehicles. So currently the city has, in the original 26-27 budget, in Measure AA, the city budgeted for a dump truck to improve the service delivery of the road maintenance team. There are, however, requirements per the state that for vehicles over 8,500 pounds that we have to have 50% of that fleet be electric. So in order to purchase a large dump truck, we would also have to offset it with at least 1 electric vehicle. And we are also looking at one other electric vehicle utilizing, again, these are non-general fund monies to supplement the maintenance team. There's also $118,000 in the PEG fund for council meeting communication improvements, and $150,000 in Measure AA for the installation of a generator and the design of the sewer conversion for the city's current fire station 61. And also the addition of $100,000 in Measure AA for road repair contingency in the event of any emergency road repairs needed, and $447,000 for the new streetlight installations in Measure A. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm open to any questions regarding these items. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, maybe just kind of an overarching comment on the state of the budget. That was a lot of information. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So overall, our budget is very healthy. We have in our general fund reserves, we're hovering just under $10 million, which is pretty close to 10% of our ongoing annual expenditures, our operating budget. That's very healthy to have 50%. Most cities don't have anywhere near that. Usually, if you have 25-30%, you're doing great. So we need to be careful. It overall is still a much smaller budget than many of our neighbors, and when some of the larger costs come, they can be quite large. We all know the exponential increases we've seen in public safety alone in recent years. So we need to be cautious. We need to be conservative, which we are. You saw some adjustments to positions in the presentation. I wanted to highlight, just so there's no confusion, we're only requesting the addition of one position. That's the permit tech position. The other changes you saw were adding different classifications within our salary schedules to give flexibility moving forward as time progresses, as we have new departments like Public Works, and we're still settling into the new org chart. We're figuring out what would work most optimally in terms of which positions we should have in our schedule. So I want to paint an optimistic picture. Of course, we don't know what the future will bring with the economy. So I think caution is prudent, but overall we're doing well. Measure A continues to be a lifesaver for the city. The revenues, our local sales tax revenues continue to increase, while brick and mortar sales remain fairly stagnant. And so, thankfully, we're looking pretty good overall.
Thank you, City Manager. City Clerk, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
All right, that will open up council discussion. Yes.
Is this a time that we can request some stuff, some items? The men's bathroom at Martin O'Brien Park needs an overhaul, preferably before the birthday. I don't know if that's possible. Is that in Measure Z?
Well, when you say overhaul, what did you have in mind?
I don't go in there a lot. But I've been told it needs a paint, just needs not just a cleaning, it needs an upgrade. So maybe we can check it out.
Yes, so the maintenance of the restrooms are covered by Measure Z.
Okay.
Depending on the extent of the improvements, we may have to use other funds, but we'll look into that.
Yeah, it needs more than just a cleaning. It needs a good upgrade. It hasn't been upgraded in a while.
Okay.
And then the ropes. I know we've been speaking about the ropes for a while. I know we received another email from Mr. Saunders. Is that something, because it is in my area, so I do receive complaints about it.
Yeah, there is a portion of Measure A in the budget for the rope replacement on grant.
Okay, and is it going to be the new, I think we're talking synthetic?
Synthetic type.
Okay.
Correct.
And then, so it'll be phased in?
Correct, yeah. It's not going to be done all at once because there's a lot of rope, and there is some rope that is still usable.
Okay.
But yeah, it will be phased in, and it will be a synthetic type of rope, so it resists tension when it rains.
Okay, good, thank you. I wasn't quite sure about the admin front desk. I appreciate the comments from our city manager, but I wasn't quite sure what that was. $96,000 for the admin front desk?
Yes, currently the front desk is handled by community development, and there's admin assistance that's been covering the front desk for now under contract.
Okay, so we're making it a position though, but I thought we were only adding one position.
No, it's not a staff position. It's only a staff it's contract under a temp service.
We've been doing that currently. We have
Yes.
a contract
Okay.
currently for that.
But we might bring that in-house in future?
In the future, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's not proposed in this budget to do that.
Okay. And then the PEG fund, so I had Joseph, because he's able to see it on his iPad here, of what it looks like. So like earlier, I know she is 7 years old, but you can't even see her on the screen.
Yes, we have already in the works significant upgrades to the
Okay.
audio video in the council chambers. It will include a 3-camera system. So there'll be one camera on this wall facing the audience. Will be 2 cameras out there facing this way. There'll be broadcast in 1080. We'll have a system where you can see the presentation as well as who's presenting.
Good.
We'll also have a voting system for the council dais. Exactly. What else am I missing?
Good, because sometimes right now I hear if it's an agenda item, like right now, they're just seeing that questions, they're not seeing us speak or is it?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So they're, the whole time, it could just be sitting on that slide and they don't even know who, I mean, I guess I know they know our voices probably, but.
The city clerk's office has been working on that. We've solicited proposals. We had Western AV out and really been drilling down on their quote. We have to get a couple other quotes per our procurement policy before we can sign an agreement, but that is moving along nicely.
Okay. And then my last one is parks, right? So can we get an update on when are we going to get the 20-acre park open, the 27-acre park open, and we have to, is it in the budget at all? We have to get these parks open.
Yeah, and I can speak a little bit more to it in the 5-year CIP presentation, and then we do also have an update on the 20-acre park in item 3.4.
All right, thank you.
All right, so a couple of questions. But first, can you go back a couple of slides just to that one that did have either the new positions or whatever that was? So let's see.
Personnel?
Could be it. So it's just so we can now ask questions about that, whoever the. So is that it? Was that some of the ones that? Maybe it's the next page.
I would the other slide.
Yeah, so the other direction.
Oh.
Closer to the end, probably. So what's this one? Increased property tax. Maybe it's the next one.
Oh, okay.
Well,
That was this one, the front desk.
okay. Well, I'm trying to just look over these, just make sure that we flesh them out so we know exactly what's up. Oh, it switched again. Because I know I had on here, so I have several different comments. So on the City Hall improvements, I would say, so we've been the owners of the building since 2023. And so that's a couple of years worth. And if we were renting, the owner of the building, if they were a good owner, they would make these repairs and they would just charge them to the people making the rent. So the good part is even though we're paying for them, we're not also paying monthly rent. So that's good to see this happening. As far as the software costs, I think that, didn't we talk about this earlier this year? And I know I probably had like some heartburn over that. And I think that just stuff like that, the cost of software and stuff, I don't want to be the old senator that says, oh, I think the internet's a bunch of tubes or something. I don't want to come off like disconnected from reality. So though those numbers seem high, that may be just what it costs to have that kind of thing for a city. Then it had mentioned a sliver of the pie was mentioned, like 3% was cannabis. So do you have the last, I don't know, whatever amount of tabulation, if that's the last year, what that was, and also maybe the lifetime amount, if we have those figures?
For cannabis revenue?
Yes.
So for cannabis revenue, that's roughly about $675,000. What we have projected for the general fund portion of cannabis. Cannabis revenue is kind of multifaceted for us, as we also have development agreement funds, but those are not part of that. Those are actually in their own fund 110. So that is its own. So those are our own items. So are you looking for cannabis revenue across like all different sources, or?
Probably mostly just the retail part of it. So I'm thinking, so if you said that, so does that include the Measure AA portion, or?
No. So, and I can't get into like per business specifics, of course,
Sure.
But our cannabis revenue for sales tax, for the portion of our 1% sale tax is usually around, has historically been around $300,000 to $350,000. So that would be the same for Bradley Burns and Measure AA. And then we receive a little over $1 million a year per our development agreement, and which we've received funds, which we've received, I think, around $4.5 million we have in that Fund 110. And then there are application fees and regulatory fees regarding to cannabis, which are roughly several $100,000 a year that go into the general fund.
Appreciate it, because even though it's several years out, there's still members of the community that were not happy about it then, aren't happy about it now. So to show the numbers specifically, as maybe with each, yearly budget review, not only show the 3%, but what that actually means in dollars that year. And then it's not like we've been around 100 years, so we could still even say the cumulative amount in that amount of time, because I've noticed it's changed some responses like, oh, didn't realize that much had come in. So that's something. The other one that I have in here for, I don't know about wish list or not, but I know we're talking about employees and stuff. I don't know where it would fit in. I know we've only got a couple of parks, but something that would be like a park ranger type, it'd be interesting to see how that would work. Because I know there's issues at the park. It could, let's say with this situation with there was only one of the 5 that did their little park tour and stuff. So the ranger would be somebody who would go, oh, look, that basketball net has been torn for a month or something.
It's certainly something we could look into. We currently pay a security contract, so it wouldn't be necessarily a brand new expense. It would be, I'm not sure which would be more expensive. The jurisdiction I worked to previously here, we had a park ranger program, and it worked quite well. It's certainly something we could explore.
Thank you.
So I'm excited to see a new roof. So that's a long time coming. We've had a lot of issues with that. And the permitting software, can you share a little bit of some of the benefits that we can expect from the new permitting software?
Yeah, and I'll ask our community development director to give some more of the specifics. But, I was very surprised when I arrived here to learn that we didn't really have an effective permitting software. It is kind of standard practice. I've had lots of occasions, instances since I've been here over the past year of applicants expressing frustration because things have kind of fallen through the cracks, and we're operating on spreadsheets and emails. And in fact, the number one council adopted goal for the year is to streamline processes and to become business friendly and resident friendly. So this is a major step towards that. It will be a program where applicants can submit online. They can track their applications through the whole process. They can see who the last person to touch that application was. On the staff side, it makes sure that we're all coordinated, keeps us on track. There's a way to review the applications right there in the program, so we're not downloading documents and transferring them on flash drives, and it's all together. It tracks everything nicely. There will also be an AI component so that it on the public-facing side, it makes things much easier for the applicant to understand what they need to do based on the type of project that they have. Should really streamline things. But I'll ask our Community Development Director, Robert Flores, to give some more information on that.
Yeah, this is actually the agreement for the system that was selected by the city is actually on the agenda today, so I'll get into more detail. But just to work off of what City Manager Mann mentioned, in addition to the items that he listed, we also want to bring all our divisions and departments under one umbrella. So currently, our different departments and divisions handle permits differently. Some accept them by email, some have permitting software, others don't, and do it manually. So that this system is going to bring us together under one umbrella and allow for that collaboration, create efficiencies. Like City Manager Mann mentioned, there's an AI feature to that. Just to elaborate a little bit more on that, when somebody submits, when an applicant submits an application, this AI feature will actually scan through the document, and based on what we're asking them to look for, it'll identify issues that the applicant can address, choose to address either prior to submitting or choose to move forward, and then we can identify later as items that staff doesn't have to review. So those are the kind of AI features that we're looking at. In addition to that, the software is going to allow us to create efficiencies because there's a digital plan room that's incorporated as part of the system, and that would allow us to not have to review plans on paper or PDF, or current software we use is Bluebeam, which allows us to review it. That item or that feature is actually integrated into the plan so that when you do review, it's all itemized and identified by the department and by the division, and it's uploaded into an automated letter or document that's presented to the applicant. So a lot of efficiencies, a lot of coordination, collaboration items that will be presented, and I'll mention more later through the system, which is actually OpenGov, that I'll discuss in a bit.
Thank you.
I'll just say it's a lot of, I'm glad you had those comments thrown in. It's a lot of different changes and asks and just a lot of adjustments. And I would say probably more than I've seen in quite a while. So, Adam, And Chris, trust your management. I'm trusting your ability to finance and account. And let's see what this brings us. So.
All right. I just got one general comment around the $150,000 septic to sewer conversion for the fire station, right?
Yes, so that is actually not for the actual conversion of the septic. It's for the installation of a generator at the station and to do the plans, to generate the plans to for the installation of the generator and for the septic conversion. So the generator would be installed, and then the septic would occur in probably the next fiscal year after the plans are drawn up.
Got it. Thank you. And then I did receive a question from a resident. So if we can go back to the revenues and expenditures, and if we can just provide some clarity around cannabis, it shows up on both of them. So 3% for the revenues. We've already talked about how that gets split up. But moving on to the expenditures, can we provide clarity just for the general public around what that's or what's meant by that?
For the operator,
the next slide.
Oh, sorry. So for the code in cannabis, so that is for the enforcement of cannabis regulations on both policing illegal grows and doing the monthly.
Franchise agreements, right?
Well, per the development agreements, code does regular. I don't want to say policing, but they do regular reviews of all the cannabis businesses to make sure that they are in compliance with our code, as well as they police the or search, as well as the actual the sheriff department for grows without for busting grows, which by removing illegal grows helps improve the legal businesses by removing their the illegal competition, so to speak. So that component is funded by the regulatory fees.
Cool. Thanks, Adam, for that clarification. All right.
So we got three different motions. Three motions now? Yes. All right. I'll make a motion for each of the three to approve Resolution 2026-34.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. A motion to approve WCD 2026-01.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. And then the last one, I approve a motion to approve Resolution 2026-35.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, that brings us to item 3.2, the 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal year 26-27 through 2030-31, presented by our Public Works Director and City Engineer, Jason Verrig.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you this evening is adoption of the updated 5-year CIP program for fiscal years 26-27 through 30-31. Just to highlight the photo on the screen is a recently completed Palomar Street widening project and the intersection of Palomar and Wildomar Trail. As you know, we have project categories in 9 primary different categories: roads, signals, maintenance, drainage, trails, parks, facilities, including City Hall, the cemetery, and then just an other category that kind of catches miscellaneous types of projects. Taking a look at the breakdown of where the majority of our projects are, as you can see, roads by far exceeds as our number one project category. We have 15 projects in that category, followed by parks and then drainage. I do want to mention, as you know, our parks are phased. So we have a phase 1 of the 27-acre and a phase 2, and on the 20-acre we have phase 0, 1, 2. So that skews that number. We don't have 7 different parks we're building, but we have 7 different phases of park projects, drainage, and then followed by the rest of the categories there. I won't go through this entire list, but just want to highlight the funding sources that the CIP program is using for fiscal year 26-27. So as you can see, the program makes use of a lot of different fund sources. There is some general fund, as Finance Manager Adam Jantz mentioned, for City Hall and some facilities. But by and large, the majority of our funding comes from grants, comes from local and regional funds. On the next slide, I'll touch on the breakdown of those funding sources. So on this slide, and I do want to apologize because I believe measure AA is missing from this slide, but this slide shows the distribution of funding in the fiscal year 26-27 budget for the fund sources that are contributing 1% or more to the program. Measure AA is contributing, I believe, about 1.8 million, which equates to about 4% of this budget breakdown. The majority of our funding this fiscal year is coming from development impact fees. A substantial portion of that is split between several different project categories. We have our park projects, which are primarily reliant on our development impact fees and our park improvement funds. We do have some reimbursements that will be issued to a developer, specifically Beazer Homes, for a lot of the public infrastructure that they constructed as part of their project. They did enter into a development impact fee reimbursement agreement, and so they are eligible. So having built some of what otherwise would have been city responsibility to build, they are eligible for some of those reimbursements. We do have a portion of DIF also going towards Bundy Canyon Road Segment 2. And so that's making up the majority of our funding for this upcoming fiscal year, followed by actually a sizable portion of capital reinvestment, and that $8.5 million actually represents a contribution or a participation from Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District on our Bundy Canyon Road Segment 2 project. As part of that project, as you know, we have to not only relocate but reconstruct the entire water main on Bundy Canyon Road. And so that is a EVMWD responsible cost. The city will complete the work, and then the district will reimburse the city. And then following that, we have our local grants. So this includes primarily our grants that we have through RCTC that we've been awarded for various projects. Again, a good portion of that in this fiscal year is the Bundy Canyon Road Segment 2 project. With that, this is just a tabulated breakdown of each of the funding sources and the amount that each funding source is contributing in the 2 fiscal years, with a total budget for fiscal year 26-27 of just under $45 million. Again, a sizable portion of that, and actually more than half of that, is represented by the Bundy Canyon Road Segment 2 project. With that, I want to just take a quick look back at this last fiscal year and some of the accomplishments and items that we have been able to complete in this last fiscal year. Our team is a small team, but they do a lot of work, and we were able to complete the Palomar widening project as well as the cemetery improvements. There are some remaining closeout items, including the bus stop, and the bus stop is actually on RTA's list to part of the contract included them refurbishing the bus stop and reinstalling it. So I believe they're working on getting their contractor lined up to reinstall that bus shelter. So there are some final contract closeout items and punch list items, but otherwise that project is substantially complete. Earlier this year, we completed the pavement management program report, and the city council adopted that. In partnership with Riverside County Flood Control, the Line C basin on Monte Vista Drive and Bundy Canyon was completed, along with the street improvements on Monte Vista Drive. We will be we're just working through the closeout process with Flood Control on that. We completed one of our smaller projects, just a catch basin filter retrofit project. This went through several catch basins throughout the city and upgraded the filters to a more high-performing filter that addresses some of the more high-priority pollutants in our watershed. The prior filters that were in there were 10, 15, 20 years old. We completed the Marna O'Brien rubberized play surface. We are also substantially complete with the Bundy Canyon Road and Wildomar Trail interchange PID PSR phase, and I'll touch on that here in just a moment in a little bit more detail. So just wanted to highlight some of the items that we have been working on and have been able to move forward. So to touch on the 2 interchange projects, These projects are currently in the what we call the PID PSR phase. So that's the project initiation document, project study report phase. So this is the very initial first phase of any interchange improvement where we have to work with Caltrans. What we do in this phase, and we've been working with Caltrans, with RCTC, and with our consultant HDR, and Mark Hager from HDR is here in the audience as well. That team has been working very diligently over the last year and plus to get through this phase. That is essentially a preliminary planning phase is probably the best way I can describe that. That phase identifies potential concepts or alternatives for each of the interchange improvements, identifies does a preliminary traffic analysis, identifies preliminary studies that will have to be further evaluated in the next phase. And so this helps us kind of narrow down the scope of what we want to evaluate moving forward into the next phases of the interchange improvement projects. So this phase is wrapping up. We have our final draft documents into Caltrans for final review and approval. So we're hoping to complete that this summer, potentially as soon as this month. And each of these interchanges has 3 proposed alternatives that I'll talk about in a little bit more detail here. Each interchange includes what's called a no-build alternative. So as part of the evaluation of different options, we also evaluate the option of doing nothing and leaving the interchange as is. So that is considered one of the alternatives. So touching on the Bundy Canyon Road interchange, in addition to the no-build alternative, after all the evaluations where we've kind of settled as the recommended alternatives to move into the next stage for further evaluation and further study are what's called an improved diamond interchange and a diverging diamond interchange. So a diamond interchange is what you typically see at most traditional interchanges. The on-ramp and the off-ramp are on opposing sides of the local road. And so the improved diamond interchange on Bundy would widen the on-ramps and the off-ramps, would widen the road under the bridge, under the freeway, complete local road improvements, including bike lanes and turning lane improvements, and then signal upgrades. The second alternative that's being recommended to move forward for evaluation is what's known as a diverging diamond interchange. These are less common, but a newer type of interchange that's being evaluated more frequently now on these types of projects. There's one currently in construction on the 215 freeway at University Parkway by Cal State San Bernardino. This layout essentially flips traffic. So where you would normally drive on the right side of the road, you're now, as you drive through the interchange, you're on the left side of the road. It's kind of represented. You can see where the blue lines cross and form an X at each of the on-ramps and off-ramps. There are several benefits to this layout, even though it is not typically, not typical. What we've seen in the preliminary studies for our 2 interchanges is we have a heavy southbound I-15 movement. We have a lot of traffic entering the southbound ramps going south towards San Diego, and we have a lot of traffic coming off of the northbound ramps back from that direction. And so there's a lot of left turn movements. So the diverging diamond interchange, by crossing the traffic, actually limits the conflict points, and it essentially creates just 2 traffic signals where traffic crosses over into different directions, and it allows for a free-flowing left turn onto the freeway. And so that helps with traffic efficiency. The consolidated intersections with 2 signals also limits conflicting movements and just improves safety as well. And so that is the second alternative that is, the third alternative that's being proposed to move forward for evaluation. For Wildomar Trail, we are, in addition to the no-build alternative, we are looking to move 2 other alternatives forward. Again, an improved diamond interchange. So similar to Bundy, this would widen the on-ramps. This would actually widen the bridge structure from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, adding a multi-use trail consistent with our general plan. Add intersection controls at the on-ramps and off-ramps, whether that's traffic signals or roundabouts, will be further evaluated. And also an increase of the spacing between the northbound ramps and Monte Vista Drive. The last alternative is a northbound loop exit ramp and a northbound spread diamond. So this is a modified diamond, and there are two northbound off-ramps. There's one northbound off-ramp that goes directly eastbound and one northbound off-ramp that loops to go westbound. And the reason this is a beneficial alternative is, again, because we have a heavy northbound movement for people leaving the freeway coming back on, and at Wildomar Trail in particular, we have a heavy westbound movement. There's a lot of cars that are looking to make that left turn from the freeway to head towards Kaiser and continuing west. So that heavy movement could create some just efficiency issues, and so this loop allows for a more free-flowing movement for those vehicles heading northbound to exit and make a right and continue west without interrupting the flow of east-west traffic on the bridge. So what does that mean? And I apologize that the text is a little bit small. What are our next steps? So as we mentioned earlier this year, because of TUMF funding limitations and project priorities, we are prioritizing some of our capital projects. And so the next steps that you see on the screen are not yet budgeted. This is what would be the next steps when the city is ready and when budget does become available. But the next immediate step for both interchanges would be the PAED phase, the project approval environmental document. This is approximately a 3-year long process, and each interchange is estimated to cost $4 to $5 million just for this phase. That will do all the further evaluations of each alternative, ultimately select a preferred alternative, complete the environmental document for that alternative, so that we can then move into the final design. The final design for each interchange is estimated to be about 2 years, with a cost ranging from $3 to $8 million per interchange. That would just be our traditional final design process where we prepare construction documents, and then following that is when we would look to move forward to construction. Just to give you an idea, order of magnitude, based on just very initial estimates, the Bundy Canyon Road interchange is estimated to be about $40 to $50 million. And the Wildomar Trail interchange is estimated to be $60 to $80 million. And so I want to just pause here for a moment and talk about what we're currently doing at the interchanges in the interim, because obviously we're not yet able to move forward with these phases. So at Bundy Canyon Road, we are moving forward with completing completing the rehab under the freeway bridge. We are estimating that should be done in July. And we are also working on an active transportation project to add bike lanes through that segment and to improve or to provide more safety for cyclists riding through that segment. On Wildomar Trail, we are continuing to work with Caltrans on the restriping. We did get positive feedback from them on our last submittal with relatively minor comments. We have our resubmittal already into them for what hopefully could be a final review. And we are looking to restripe Wildomar Trail from Margaret Lane all the way to the northbound ramp to address the Kaiser driveway concerns, as well as to address the congestion concerns and provide a lane to allow for right turns onto the southbound freeway. And so that is still on our list, and we're still moving that forward, and it's one of our priority projects, as you'll see, into the coming fiscal year, to move that forward as quickly as possible once we get the Caltrans approval. Separately, we are also evaluating interim options for Wildomar Trail interchange and what we can do with potentially exploring the potential for interim traffic signals ahead of this $60 to $80 million full interchange upgrade. So we're just in the early stages discussing that with RCTC, with our consultant, and seeing if that's a feasible option that we can explore as a semi.
Jason, real quick, am I crazy? Do you guys hear like a bubbling? What is that? Sorry. Anyway, it just really like keeps getting me. So. If there's a bubbling out there, you're doing it. Can you stop?
We are exploring other interim measures that can be taken to improve traffic flow in this area with, ahead of just waiting for a full, $80 million project. So with that, I just want to talk about projects that are now going into the next fiscal year. So these are projects that we have been working on but are carrying forward, including the Clinton Keith widening. So although the construction has been delayed, we are still working through completing the pre-construction phases to get that as construction ready as possible. Bundy Canyon Road Segment 2, our Mission Trail Sedco sidewalk, we're looking to finalize that design so that once the water district is complete on Mission Trail, we can then move in and complete our last segment of sidewalk as well. We are looking to wrap up the cemetery master plan update, the 27-acre park, and just as an update, one of the items that has that we've been working through on the 27-acre park is an issue related to mineral rights on the property. So we did, as you may recall, we received federal funding through the state, National Park Service through the state for phase 1 of the 27-acre park. Because that funding is federal, there's a deed restriction that will be placed on the 27-acre park. However, prior to that being in place, there are mineral rights that existed on the park when the city received it from the county that have to be removed per the federal requirement. And so we're working through that process with our city attorney's office, our right-of-way consultant. And so that's been one of the holdups, as well as some environmental permitting issues. And so we are looking, we are prioritizing that project internally on the staff level to push that forward and keep that moving along.
Can you just real quick, can you add, because I don't know if I was phasing out, or it's just part of that, but mineral rights, so who do they need to go to? We vacate them to somebody else or what?
The mineral rights need to be removed from the property, which means that the city has to acquire the mineral rights. So much like we would acquire right-of-way from a property owner next to the roadway, we need to acquire these mineral rights from the people who actually have them. There are two, a prior owner has some rights, and then another individual from, I think, years prior. Yeah. So I want to be sensitive to time and don't want to just read every item on the list, but I just want to highlight that there are a lot of projects in the design phase that we are actively working on. One of them is the 20-acre park, which Carlos will present on in a little bit in more detail. Construction, our rehab project is going to carry over into July, like I mentioned. Slurry seal is expected to be complete this month, and then pavement rehab is expected to be complete in July. And then we are still working on the Harvestway traffic signal, as well as the other traffic signal upgrades in the city, estimating an approximate September-October completion date for those. So our upcoming priorities, again, are completing the traffic signal projects, Wildomar Trail interchange restriping, the 20-acre passive park, getting that open to public access, and Bundy Canyon Road Segment 2, getting that out to construction. Our street light pilot program, which we presented on at the last council meeting, is now in the budget, as Adam mentioned. And so we'll be moving that forward, and then looking forward to also beginning the process on our next year's pavement rehab project. And so with that, I'll happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jason. City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Yes, Monty Goddard.
Good evening again. I wasn't planning on commenting on this one, but one of those charts that Jason put up there caught my attention. You may recall some of not old, I'm old, some of you folks that have been around for a long time. There was a move to put sunshades, park shades over the top lots. And the night that came up for the council to approve, there was part of the funding for that was Measure Z. I called that out. Measure Z can only be used for maintenance and repair, and I saw Measure Z on that list of projects, and it caught my attention. I wanted to ask about it. And otherwise, excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Wani. Jason, do you want to go ahead and answer that question?
Yes, yeah, I can address that. So Measure Z is being used in the current slurry seal project for the slurry seal of the Martin O'Brien parking lot. And so there's just a portion of carryover that's not complete, and that's what that is.
Thank you, Jason. All right. That will lead us to council comments up here on the dais, Pro Tem.
Hey, Jason, thank you. Like Monty said, you're an engineer by trade? Civil engineer by trade. So when he says good job, I will also say good job. Real quick, for the farm, for the slurry and seal of that community, is that slated for next year?
We don't have it scheduled yet, and part of that is we need to now look at the list of streets that was approved in the resolution and the consent calendar. We now need to look at total costs and then identify how much we can complete in this fiscal year, because we only get so much from the state each year. We have had an industry paving expert go out to the streets in the farm and help evaluate them for us.
I remember there being some are below. Yeah.
Correct. So what we would expect in some of those streets there is probably more than a slurry seal. We might be doing a cape seal or an ARAM application, which is a mix of an aggregate with a slurry on top. So there's going to be a mix of strategies there because the roads are some of them are below a slurry seal condition.
So some of those, what you just mentioned, is that slated for next year, or are we identifying where we're at?
We're still identifying, so I don't have that information, but we can work on putting a more defined schedule together. So
please, I just want to make sure that they're a huge community. I don't want to see them get lost in the sauce, just because. I mean, granted, I love the pavement we did in my neighborhood; it's amazing. But I don't want to see them get left behind because they're below a certain level, or or have to wait a few more years and it gets even worse, and just So yes,
okay.
If we can.
Yeah.
Progress towards getting that, taken care of. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll work on that, and then we can report back on it.
Okay.
Councilmember Moore?
Yes, thank you for the presentation and for the parks information. So hopefully we can get some more definitive timelines on when those parks, or we can get those first phases, because I thought we were going to have the 20-acre last year, right? I thought we were going to have that lease open a little bit. And I know this really isn't the 5-year capital improvement project program, but all I keep hearing is when's Walmart going to open and when's Frost going to open. Do we have any information on that? Can you answer that? Or
I know that when we started talking, just off the top of my head, I know when we started filming the video that day, I actually met with the general contractor that day. Randomly, they were there at the Shell station, and they told me to be slightly over a year because they were going to start the grading, but it's the movements of telephone poles and maybe some sewage stuff with water that's going to take a little bit of time. But they said slightly over a year from when we started filming, so whatever date that was.
like a month or two?
Yeah, I think what we had heard was about 18 months is general.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I have a couple just questions. Mostly, we're talking about the Wildomar Trail interchange, and then the same thing with Bundy Canyon. It's interesting. So I put in diverging diamond interchange at YouTube. I got to diverging partway, and he says, "Did you want diverging diamond interchanges?" So it's very interesting looking. I would just say that it's very space age for us. I bet it's way expensive compared to just the other stuff, just from where everything would need to go, it seems. But what I would want to just remind the people out there that whether it was it Railroad Canyon, how long that went. I remember, I don't know, maybe it was before I started going to city meetings, they were talking about all the different things they might do. So this is, we're not at the very first step. I don't know how many steps. If there were 10 steps, we're like between step 1 and 2, maybe. And this is like you're super duper lucky if it's 10 years. It's more like 15 to 20. So this is things that'll happen in the future. So when it comes to, and also, so obviously the estimates of how much it costs, it's guesstimates, because if it was today's money, it would still be an estimate. But I mean, when we're not even sure how much it's going to cost in the future, the 60, 80 is probably going to be, in next generation's money, I don't even want to guess how bad that's going to be. But with that, you mentioned potentially tentative traffic signal. So I don't know what level of delay it is, like an interchange, because that's huge, but that still sounds like a 5-year thing with Caltrans.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to give false hope or set false expectations. It will still be a process with Caltrans. The timing will depend on the process that that we have to go through. If we go through an encroachment permit process, it could be a little bit more streamlined. If it doesn't qualify for the encroachment permit process, then it would be a more involved and more time-consuming process. So there's going to be still a fair amount of cost and time to that, but it would be, like you mentioned, if the full interchange is 15 years out, this would be something that would bridge that gap.
Sure. And then just last on, there was just the restriping of that area, and you mentioned we're getting closer. And 3 weeks ago, you were part of the city tour, and we parked over there on the old Baxter area and kind of had a look out for a couple of different things. And just a bit of time there, we saw a couple people doing them, and I appreciate the new lane delineators, but they're definitely, they need to go all the way to the end. I know at one point you had mentioned the potential of changing the striping to allow a U-turn at Margaret Lane for those that are like, hey, I don't want to go further west, and they're already stuck. So I don't know, where's that at?
Yeah, so we're working on that with our traffic engineer and our consultant to try to accommodate and allow for a U-turn at the traffic signal. It will require a signal modification, but it looks like it should be feasible, and so we are trying to get that moving forward as well to give that alternative option.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Well, thank you. I was excited to hear about the potentially end date of July for Bundy Canyon. That would be exciting. The Kaiser, Margaret to Kaiser, that's exciting. So I heard you say, is there any estimate on when that might happen?
Yeah, so again, I don't want to, I'll share with you the estimate we're anticipating, but it is contingent on Caltrans approval. But what we're trying to do is to have it completed under the current paving and rehab contract, and so it would be an item that we would look to execute as part of a contract change order with All American Asphalt. And so as they complete the Bundy Canyon underpass and the repaving there, we are trying to time it so that they can also complete Wildomar Trail at the same time. So our goal is to try to complete it by the end of July. Mm-hmm. That's what we're working towards if everything lines up.
That'd be awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's a good idea to merge those two. Okay, great. Let me go over my notes real quick. Yeah, I think that was it. Thank you.
Jason, I know that you mentioned that these interchange projects are a long ways away, but with that, the funding or secure the substantial funding for them. Can you talk a little bit about where we would come up with that funding?
Yeah, so I'll touch on it a little bit, and then I may ask Carlos, who actually has more experience than I do with interchanges. He's actually built a few, and so we do have maximum share allocation for both interchanges through the TUMF program. I believe there's either 17 or 27 million allocated. Obviously, as we've seen, that doesn't mean that money is available in hand immediately, but we can ultimately request up to that amount over time. So likely, I would anticipate that we would use TUMF to get through the initial phases, the PAD phase, the design phase, and then construction is where I think we would really need to look externally for funding. And Carlos, I don't know if you can touch on maybe some of the likely funding sources.
Okay. Well, good evening. So local funding never gets us fully there. These interchanges cost a lot of money. So there are grants out there, state grants and federal grants that are very competitive, but they could bridge that gap. It just requires a lot of effort and coordination and public involvement to be competitive as a city. It also requires some more, I guess, outreach to our political members, senators out there to legislate on our behalf on some of those projects. But it's a process. But it's not certain, of course. And that's something that we will be looking at as we move forward, as far as what grants are out there that can be more successful that we can go after.
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you, Jason. Chris, I think this sounds like a future congressional request.
Well, we just moved the money under the city manager office for with Gonzalez and the other pack, right? So, other consultants. So.
All right.
We did a motion for this one, Tom? Yes. I'll make a motion to approve the CIP that Jason has presented.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, this brings us to item 3.3, Brown Act updates on Senate Bill 707 and adoption of a technology disruption policy and community outreach policy presented by our city clerk, Jeanette Morales Garcia.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before I begin, I just want to mention that there was an error in posting the attachments to the staff report. So there are two resolutions before you at the dais, and they're also available at the back desk for the public. So tonight I will provide you an overview of SB 707 Brown Act updates and then proposed resolutions and policies for adoption. And then I just want to mention too that SB 707 is extensive. So I'm just going to give you the brief highlights that are and how they impact Wildomar. And then Tom can give you a 4-hour presentation another time. So kind of a background on SB 707. So October 3rd, 2025, Governor Newsom signed into act SB 707, which updates the provisions to the Brown Act with the intention to increase transparency, public engagement, and accessibility at the local government meetings for eligible legislative bodies. So based on Wildomar's population, the City Council meeting body is the only eligible legislative body that's required to comply with these provisions. So everything I speak to going forward is just for City Council meetings and not for Planning Commission or committee meetings. So some of the items that are going to be required effective July 1st, we have to do some additional engagement and outreach, accessibility and language access, remote participation, and technology reliability. So in the next slides, I'll kind of go through each one and the proposed solutions to make sure we meet those requirements. So the first one is outreach and engagement. So the city is required to document reasonable efforts to encourage public participation, specifically for unrepresented communities and non-English speaking communities. So before you, we have the adoption of an outreach resolution and policy to identify the city's efforts. So these efforts include newsletters, social media, our public hearing notices that are required by law, email notifications, agenda subscriptions, and then many other items as well, depending on our resources that we have. As far as accessibility and language access, so we're required to translate our agendas to Spanish. We are required to have a space for the public to be able to post their additional translated agendas. And we're also required to have an updated web page that has the information that's also translated into Spanish, and then also how to get assistance for ADA. So as of right now on our agenda and minutes page, if you click on the agendas, you're able to download the agenda in HTML. We have a Google Translate button that translates it to Spanish and can also translate it to any language that Google Translate has. These agendas will also be posted at City Hall along with our regular agendas. As mentioned, that we're also required to provide a publicly accessible space near the official agenda posting location where community members may post additional agenda translations. So we will be mounting a posting box near the city's posting location, and the public will be able to place their updated or their translated agendas for the city council meetings. The city will not be liable for any of the translations, and anything that's not related will be removed immediately, and then they'll also will have information that the agendas will be removed after the meeting as well. Continuing with the accessibility and language, we have to update our agendas and meeting page. Again, include the process for participating in meeting, procedure for receiving reasonable accommodations, and then also have a translate to at least Spanish or any multiple language button on the city's webpage as well. The next item that we were required is to be able to provide remote public participation. So staff is recommending that we utilize Zoom Webinar and this software called Public Input to provide a two-way telephonic service. So the city will provide a phone number for members of the public to call in and be able to provide public comment during city council meetings. And the Public Input is a software that integrates with our system, so we'll be able to manage the remote speakers that are online. They'll be able to register, and then also the speakers that are in person. And then finally, we're required to adopt a technology disruption policy in open session during a city council meeting. So before you, we have a proposed technology disruption resolution. If a disruption prevents remote participation, the law states that the city council must recess for at least 1 hour while staff attempts to restore the service. If service cannot be restored after that hour, the council may either adjourn the meeting or continue, as long as they do a roll call vote to say that it's in the interest of the public to continue the meeting. During that recess, if there is a closed session on the agenda, the council can also meet in closed session during that time as well. And with that, this provides an overview of the city's obligations, and tonight we request for the adoption of the outreach policy and the technology disruption policy. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any public comments?
No public comments.
All right, we'll bring that up to for council discussion.
I will say, Jeanette, thank you. What is the service called we're using for the phone?
So we're going to use the Zoom webinar phone.
Okay.
But also there's a program called Public Input.
Okay.
Where we will be able to manage just the speakers that are coming in.
And this will be going into effect in July?
Yeah, so this will be for our next council meeting,
Okay.
July 8th.
And you'll have all the instructions on the agenda for next meeting?
Yes.
All right, so if you don't want to come in here, but you want to call in still, just make sure you look at the website and follow the instructions. Thank you, Jeanette.
Councilmember Moore? Rita?
Yeah, it's I guess my question would be, because part of the issue is here is like if things go down, and we haven't been doing this for a while, but back, 4 years ago, we had the Zoom hybrid going on for a while. So do you kind of remember whether or not we had too many issues that interrupted live streaming?
We never, knock on wood, during the COVID times, we did not have any disruptions.
And I'm guessing that with all the years since then, because had COVID happened 10 years earlier, it would have caused a different mess because that technology wasn't there. So not only was the technology easy enough to jump onto, but now with four or 5 years later, it must be even more reliable, I'm guessing. So we'll be interested to see, are we going to do like a test drive, or it'll just be there seamless? We won't even know it's there. I mean, what are we going to see different?
So you'll see the difference in July, because we'll have speakers that are able to call in, but we will be doing testing with staff internally before that.
Will it show up different on the video? Will people see like, caller calling in?
No, not for the screens, not for the public, only for like staff and to be able to manage it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so with that being said, I'm excited to hear that participation in our meetings is going to get easier. But I do want to recognize those that are in the audience and those that are tuning in virtually. We do appreciate you staying tuned and engaged. And if you're tuning in virtually right now, well, you're going to have the opportunity to engage remotely. So it's an added bonus. I guess I want to piggyback on one of Councilmember Morabito's questions about the presentation. And I know currently there's a slight delay on when you're tuning in. So will there be a slight delay for those that are calling in?
So those that call in will be able to hear it live. It'll be
Real time.
in real time, yeah.
Okay, so then to be clear, we'll be streaming two different, one that's real time and one that's the standard delay, or is the real time now going to replace our?
So we will have the streaming will continue the same. So the streaming to watch the video will still continue through YouTube and through Granicus, but for remote participation, it'll only be through telephone. So they'll have to call in and listen in, and they'll be able to hear through the telephone when it's time for public comment. But the telephone will be in real time.
Okay. Well, that might be a little challenging. But I guess we'll see how it plays out. Cool. I'm also excited to hear that the agendas are now able to be translated and that we're going to be posting those. I guess I'd have a follow-up question on that. I know that some staff receive pay for being able to translate. I guess would their services at all be relied upon during a meeting? Not with this requirement?
We're not required to provide translated services. We're only required to provide the space if someone wanted to bring a translator in. The agendas, the way our system works is that we're not able to attach an additional translated agenda. The HTML will translate it within the box.
Okay. Well, thank you. With that being said, do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-36?
You have a motion to approve resolution 2026-36.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
Do I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-37?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, that brings us to item 3.4, the 20-acre park amendments to the purchase and sale agreement, grant of access easements, and water license agreement presented by our principal engineer, Carlos Geronimo.
Thank you. Good evening, residents, mayor, council members, and staff. Here before you is the extension for the 20-acre park purchase and sale agreement. Let's see. Can bring up the presentation. Oh, it is there, right? Thank you. Okay. Okay. Formerly known as the Ann Sullivan property. So in 2023, the city acquired from CAF Order at Wildomar, Inc., 20 acres of land intended for park, trails, public restrooms, park, and supporting facilities through a purchase and sale agreement. And an access easement was recorded at that time as well. Also at that time, the city acquired an approximate half-acre portion of vacant property from CAF, will be known as the Sliver property. It's adjacent to the flood control channel to be used as a parking lot for the park. A little bit of the project history and progress, just where we are now. After June 2023, when we purchased the property on July 12, 2023, there was a city council meeting where we entered into a contract with Architera, a design group, to develop the contract documents for this project. On December 13, 2023, at a city council member, staff presented the first draft of the 20-acre park, a conceptual plan, and the contract amendment with Architera for additional services, and we initiated environmental analysis through a CEQA. In February 15, 2024, a community meeting was held at the Ann Sullivan Preschool. Staff did a presentation, and we gathered community feedback at that time. On April 18, 2024, Park Subcommittee meeting reviewed Phase 1 conceptual plan and cost exhibits, provided feedback of the optional amenities for Phase 1, discussed target dates to report back to council, and discussed deliverables to the council. And last year, on June 11, 2025, City Council meeting, the CEQA was completed and adopted at that time. and we authorized staff to pursue grant funding opportunities with California State Parks Department. And at that time, we also extended the water license agreement with CAF. Okay, and just a little bit more details on the grant agreements and what it states. The purchase and sale agreements establishes the terms of acquisition and future use of the property. It identifies the city's obligations related to water line, utilities coordination, maintenance, and access for the future park improvements. The grant deed limits the park use primarily for parking, restroom, and related purposes. And a key element in that grant deed is that it states that the park operations are intended from sunrise to sunset, so it's not a 24-hour park. There's some access easements that were recorded that provide temporary maintenance and ongoing emergency access through the adjacent property, and establishes temporary maintenance access and easements for the park activities. And the water license agreement identifies the location of the existing water line and related water infrastructure, and allows the city to coordinate water service and irrigation facilities needed for the vacant sliver and future park. So with the water license agreement, we continuously use the existing infrastructure that's there, and we pay a monthly fee, if you will, to CAF to irrigate the existing trees that are there. At some point, the city is going to work on obtaining our own connection with through EVMWD, so we can irrigate that park ourselves and kind of savor that connection with CAF property. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is some amendments to that existing agreement. As I stated earlier, that the original purchase and sales agreement specified some deadlines for some of these items, and we are working on some of these components, but we need additional time in order to complete these items. So one of them is the installation of the screen fence for pedestrian bridge and gate was extended from June 16 to February 28, 2027. We also extended the deadline for construction of future pedestrian bridge to September 30, 2027, and revised the obligation related to the existing walking bridge gate. This is at the north side of the property for existing pedestrian bridge gate to accommodate future coordination with Riverside County Flood Control on park access from the Pasadena Street. And this is where a senior center is located. So it gives us the ability in the future to provide access from that side of the park. For access easements, the proposed amendment extends the term from June 29 to September 30, 2027 for maintenance, temporary access across CAF's property for maintenance and project activities, and extended the water license to September 30, 2027. Okay. And staff is actively working with flood control and other agencies to provide needed encroachment permits and license agreements, so we can have all these items together and be ready for construction. Preparation of improvement plans and installation of screen fencing and gates, recycled water lines, coordination with consultants and agencies, and preparations of contract documents to procure a prefabricated bridge that will connect the sliver property to our parking lot. So it's quite a bit of work to put all these items together. So, and funding is an issue on this project, as we will touch here in a little bit. So this project was divided into phases, as Jason stated earlier. So there's 4 phases to this project in order to provide a progressive construction of amenities and public access. Okay. So the first phase, we call this phase 0A. This is intended to meet our obligations that were extended to February 28, 2027. And that includes the installation of the screen fence of the sliver property, clearing and grabbing, the recycled water facilities, and irrigation repairs and upgrades, and the temporary gravel parking lot within the park property, which is located southwest at Gerson Avenue. Okay, and The target completion for this phase will be winter or towards the end of 2026 with an estimated cost of $600,000. Okay. So the next phase, and then this is to meet our obligations for the walking bridge and the parking. This was extended to September 30, 2027, which is a new pedestrian bridge and the Palomar Street parking lot improvements and access at that location. And this is that sliver property, half an acre, that the city purchased. Okay. Target completion date, September, and cost estimate, $750,000. Now, the next phases are to be determined as far as completion pending funding. So you can see phase one is what we called it. It's more involved. It involves the actual Gerson Avenue extension and parking lot, ultimate improvements, public prefabricated restrooms, site improvements and utilities, a trail network development, irrigation for landscape of existing trees, and other amenities. So the cost estimate for this phase, which is the biggest portion of the project itself, is $4.2 million. And lastly, phase two includes the landscape improvements, trail enhancements, final park beautification and amenities, and long-term park build-out with an estimated cost of $2.5 million. And currently, there's no target completion on this project due to funding constraints. But city staff is actively working and looking to grants so we can bring these items closer and put a date and put some funding towards it. Okay. And here, this last slide shows the recommendations and the actions that we are asking council to take on this project. And that concludes my presentation, and here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Carlos. City Clerk, are there any public comments?
Yes, Monty Goddard.
Good evening, and this is the reason I'm here tonight. I happen to be a resident of Gerson Avenue at the dead end, right next to what's going to be this half fill-in-the-blank opening of this park in December. With that said, please keep in mind, I like what the city and the gracious sisters at Ann Sullivan have envisioned for the use of this 20-acre property. But the project sequencing, not so much. At the City of Wildomar City Council meeting in December 2023 and that subsequent meeting at Ann Sullivan School, the staff report for this park's agenda item included two graphics, phase one and final. I commented, phase one needs to include the second access, which is that bridge. It didn't at the time. Otherwise, single access to this park will place an unjust burden on the park's neighbors, my wife and I included, at the Gerson Avenue entrance. Subsequently, the city's park's new pedestrian bridge moved it from final to, my contacts are failing me, phase one. I was generally pleased until the city subsequently added a phase zero. Now it's 0A and B. I foolishly accepted phase zero is required because of the purchase agreement for this 20-acre parcel required the park to be opened to the public within a specified time frame. Reading attachment A to the staff report for this agenda item this evening, I noted this purchase agreement amendment does not mention such a requirement, nor does it ask for a related time extension. I did find in this agenda item's attachment A the portion of section 2.1 parent E, which is proposed for deletion, currently reads, buyer shall, that buyer, that's the city, shall construct a walking bridge over the existing flood control channel and connecting the vacant sliver, that's the parking lot on Palomar, to the vacant parcel, the park, at buyer's sole cost and expense. The new bridge shall be open to the public at the time that any park or civic building on this vacant parcel is open to the public, aka bridge open to the public. That's what it says. How convenient this sentence is being deleted. Yes, sarcasm intended. Why are we doing in December of this year Gerson Avenue only, premature, makeshift, neighbors be damned, typical Wildomar style park opening? Brings back vivid memories of the premature Winsong Park fence removal in 2010. In conclusion, speaking of Winsong Park and having endured living adjacent to that 2-acre park, both with and without a nightly secured perimeter fence, it will take a lot, I mean tons of convincing for me to believe the city will have the will or capability to properly police during daylight hours and secure during hours of darkness the wooded, unlit 20-acre park, nightly secured fence or not. Thank you.
No other speakers.
Thank you for sharing your comments, Monty. All right, that will bring this item up to discussion up here at the dais. Pro Tem?
So I guess long story short, we got this, we got the land, we're doing now an extension. What just in layman's terms, why the extension?
Sure, I can try to explain that.
Just so everyone is here and listening can just figure out, understand why this is here and why this is before us right now.
Sure, there's been some delays on the actual design and permitting of the project through because we have to go through flood control. So that's a process in itself. There's permitting that we have to go in order to connect with the water line. So that's a process in itself that we're already working with these agencies, but they have their own timelines. So basically, some of these deadlines are next month, or actually this month, next week, actually, June 16th. So, and that's why we need this extension, so in order to have these items be completed. So we're already working through some of those already with flood control at EMWS, it's already stated. And another issue is the funding source. Okay. We only have limited funding for this project.
So are we rushing towards a December open with the bridge and all that just to say we did it? And if so, I would recommend we don't do that and take our time. And it's no wrong answer. I'm just curious.
I can address that. No, this project is taking much longer than I think everyone here anticipated. Yeah. We've all been excited to get this property open and available to the public. So I've heard from the community and from members of the council, there's a desire to get it open as quickly as possible. Opening the entrance on Gerson, putting a temporary parking lot there would be one way to do that while we're experiencing these delays with the bridge. And so it is a proposed option. It's not what's on the agenda tonight. Tonight's just the extension of the agreement. We could have further discussions. We could have further discussions about whether the council wants to move in the direction of opening temporarily the entrance off of Gerson. That's not set in stone. That's certainly something that we could pursue or not, depending on the direction.
I think I'd like to, for the record, say I'd like to discuss that maybe at the next meeting or whatever it is. Just the way forward with it. But I also am support. Obviously, we're going to, I'll make the motion now to approve the extension. But that's where I stand with that. So okay, thank you. Yeah.
I'll second the motion because I want to discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I totally agree. This is taking way. I swear we were supposed to have this open already 2 years ago. It just feels like it was September, then it was the next September, and now it's going to be 27. And I'm not even sure if it's going to be 27. Back to my comment earlier about the parks. Now seeing that phase 1 or 2 is $4 million. I mean, I think we need a serious discussion on what parks are we going to go on, because although I'd love to see the 20-acre park, and I'm not sure what we actually have to get done per our agreement when they said they would sell it to us if we did certain things by a certain time. So I'm not sure where we're on that. are we going to spend $4 million on this park when I really want to get the 27-acre park open?
And those kind of issues are exactly why we're proceeding with a strategic plan, so we can identify, what we want the priorities to be, what not just parks, but overall, what do we want service levels to look like across the board, and then prioritize and figure out funding for those things. So, in the next, over the next 2, 3, 4 months, we're going to be going through an extensive process to do just that.
And if I could just add to that, the two Phase 0A, Phase 0B represent what our contractual requirements are for the purchase of the property.
Okay.
Phase 1 and Phase 2 are not mandatory per the purchase.
Okay, and is a bridge in 0?
Yeah, correct. So it would be the water line, the bridge, the fencing around the parking lot itself.
And that's all going to be by June 2027?
September 2027, because the bridge is a long lead item.
Okay, so by September 2027, all our contractual obligations will be complete.
Correct.
Okay, so then that's back to what you're saying is, because I, at this point, don't know if I want to put $4 million into this park when I want to get the 27-acre park open.
Well, let's bring back and discuss it then.
Yeah, and there are a lot of moving parts on all of these projects. So, for example, in the 27-acre park, we're working with our lobbying firm in Sacramento on applying for Prop 4 funding, which has the potential to pay for the whole thing. So we're pursuing various funding streams for all the different projects.
Okay, good. Because we haven't mentioned Walmart, but that's coming online. We had our, third, fourth cannabis store open. I mean, that should be a priority. Our community is growing. That family feel, all that is back to getting our community together, which is the parks is the place to do it.
All righty. Well, it looks like we might be bringing this back for a conversation.
Well, no, the extension we're going to.
No, not because I mean, there's issues with having changed it to Gearson, and I've been doing emails with Jason Carlos. Sorry for not thinking ahead to CC you on that. Maybe you've shared them with him. I don't know, but I know that. So once we get to that part with Gearson, I have views based on what I would have thought anyway, but also the neighbors that are right there. But if we're going to save that, like there's not going to be any movement forward before we have a conversation, then I can wait till we have it on the agenda. But I know that there's a lot of opinions I have here for that. And I know that I will say that when we first bought the parkland 3 years ago, we know that government moves slowly. And I appreciate the work that Wildomar does. I know we've got a small but mighty staff and all this. But at the same time, I am disappointed that this hasn't been opened. Not just started, but it should have been opened a year ago. I mean, when Chris came on board, remember we did that tour of the area, and it just seemed like, okay, that we were going that way. And I know things, something happened. So
the same man plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, so if I can ask, what exactly is the hang-up with the bridge? I mean, it's either you, right? So what?
Yeah, and I'll acknowledge, like Carlos mentioned, we have had delays on, the permitting is not the only issue. We have had delays internally on the completing the design, getting that out to construction among, the other projects that we've been working on. And so that, I acknowledge that from our end or from my end. The bridge right now is, and Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have to, because it's a prefabricated bridge, it's not something that we, our landscape consultant designs, obviously. That's not their specialty, so we have to identify the exact details of the bridge that we want, and then have go to the manufacturer, have them design it, and then it gets, we order it, it gets delivered, and the contractor installs it. And so that process is just a time. We're working through the final details of the scope of the bridge. And that includes whether it's going to be rated to also support vehicles if we need it for maintenance purposes or emergency purposes, or if it's strictly just going to be a pedestrian bridge. So we're finalizing that evaluation so we can put that scope out to get the designer to put together the prefabricated design, and then we can order it.
Sure.
Yeah, also, just to touch on that, part of that delay is because we're dealing with flood control. Originally, the thought was that we'll hire a general contractor to look for that prefabricated manufacturer, so it will be through the contractor that this would be done. But flood control does not operate that way. They want to see 90% drawings, plan specifications, and all of that before they can start reviewing it. If we leave it up to the contractor, then the contractor will have to be delayed for a period of time, who knows how long, until that encroachment permit gets approved. So that kind of put a wrench on this.
So then with the extension, so if we had just said, you know what, we're going to approve this the way it is, because I did see some pictures and all that, but because we know that the suggestion, the alternate is to go with the Gearson entrance initially, because the other, we know the delay with the bridge. But I didn't really see what was supposed to be there, because on the one hand, we shared that one graphic through the email, and it seemed to be what, if we have it, let's put it up there. But what we saw there, it seems fine. But then you say temporary parking lot. So if it's what we see up there, or maybe it's the previous one, but whichever. So what I mean, so where would it be? Where is it, and how many cars is it going to hold?
Yeah, so this is the exhibit for the temporary parking lot. So that's, on the right side of the screen is the end of the Gearson dead end. And then there would be an access entrance into this gravel parking lot behind the row of trees. And so this would be the temporary parking lot. And then ultimately, when we go to build out the parking lot, we would then extend the cul-de-sac and then build it further to the west, or to the south, I guess.
Okay, so this would not be the cul-de-sac part.
We would not be extending the cul-de-sac. Okay. We would be opening an access point from the end of the existing pavement directly into a parking lot.
So then the question would be, so what would it look like to somebody driving down Gearson? Where's going to be the stopping point?
Into the parking lot?
Well, I mean, because right now there's the dead end.
Yes, yeah.
But so we're not going to do the cul-de-sac in this early phase. So I'm just trying to think, what does it look like when the gates are closed? What's the difference between today and then?
I think it will look much like it does today, with the exception of the guardrail. There might be a portion of the guardrail on one side, but obviously part of it has to be removed. So yeah, I think it'll look much like it does today. I see. Yeah.
Okay, well, because I definitely did not understand it. That seems acceptable to me. I'm not sure where our resident is on that, but that's not punching it through, which is going to leave this area unmanned street thing that could cause trouble in the future. That's not going to be part of this.
That's not proposed with this temporary access. Now, the currently proposed ultimate design does continue that and does not currently include a gate.
So that's when, if we do bring it back, because I do have opinions on that, but that would be if we bring it back and we all chat about it. So that seems fair for this point, because we're not even going to do the temporary until we talk again, I'm assuming. Okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if it's the pleasure of the council, we can plan to agenda in this for the July meeting. We have a more in-depth discussion on this particular topic.
For sure. Councilmember DiFilippo, do you have any comments?
Yeah, that sounds good, and we look forward to seeing you again in July, Monty.
So I do have some questions, but I got some questions. So one, I guess I want to echo the frustration of my colleagues at the end of the dais around how long it's taken to meet our contractual obligations. Jason, if you can go back to phase 0A, 0B, and then just what's the total? So 600,000 for 0A and then 0B. Okay, so just over $1 million, right? For both, or close to like $1.5 million, just to meet our contractual obligations to open the park, right? For our city manager, I guess my question is, why can't we use the cannabis funds to meet those obligations?
We could, but in this case, funding is not really the hurdle.
Okay.
Yeah.
For A and B, it's not the hurdle.
Well, 0A, yeah, 0A and B. Okay, so just to meet our contractual obligations, we have the funding. We're waiting on, well, from my understanding, internally and then flood control. So is there a likelihood that we would have to extend this again next year?
Yeah, the goal is not to extend it anymore. This will be the final. So we're working with staff to get to meet our contractual obligations and all these items to the deadlines with as shown.
I also just want to echo one of the comments from Councilmember Moore about prioritizing the 27-acre park over this passive park for the phase 1. But with that being said, there's already a motion on the floor and a second to approve the extension, but there's also a request to bring this item for further discussion by the council at the next council meeting before we proceed with 0A and 0B. Yes, correct? Yeah.
Or possibly, I will not be here at the July meeting, but I can actually call in. So that or August. I'll be out of town, but I can post or whatever I need to do.
Yeah, if you can probably do it in August.
Okay. All right, cool. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, that brings us to item 3.5, award of contract for permitting and licensing software to OpenGov via Sourcewell Cooperative Contract number 010121-OPG, presented by our Community Development Director, Robert Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. Robert Flores, Community Development Director, here to present this item to you, item 3.5, which is bringing a recommendation to bring on OpenGov as our permitting software for the city of Wildomar. The item before you is the agreement that would infatuate this partnership. Before I get started with the presentation, I do want to kick this off with staff recommendations. Staff recommends approval of this item by this body as presented in the staff report, which includes authorization to the city manager to execute the end user license agreement with OpenGov and any other necessary documents to kick this effort off. And I started with the recommendations because this is a two-part presentation, and it'll just help with the flow of the presentation. Now, in line with the council's adopted goal to streamline processes and enhance residents and business-friendly approach, amongst other permitting features, the OpenGov platform includes a simple yet effective public portal for application submittal and tracking, and also new AI features, including a digital plan review feature that will help gain efficiencies on both sides of the counter, on the city side and also on the applicant side. Establishing this new permitting software is a part of a larger effort to improve our process and become more efficient and effective. Currently, our various divisions use different methods for permitting processing and tracking, including using obsolete systems, manual tracking, and one-use systems as well. To bring all the city departments under one umbrella and to allow for collaboration and coordination, staff initiated a process of finding the right system for the city. To kick off the process, we identified city needs, had several software demonstrations, and explored the procurement process to get us to this point. Now, before I ask the OpenGov team to introduce themselves and their product, I wanted to highlight a few other features that OpenGov is providing under this agreement. OpenGov is a cloud-based software, so that will allow the staff to operate the system remotely or from anywhere, including within City Hall. And it also allows for integration with existing city platforms such as SeeClickFix, which we have launched recently. So this software will talk to the SeeClickFix software in order to continue to use SeeClickFix under the OpenGov system as well. The system is also has a robust reporting feature, which will help management and staff in reporting to City Council, to staff members, to the members of the community as well. And will include necessary modules for building and fire, code enforcement, planning, and also business registration. As far as procurement, rather than taking on a timely and expensive RFP process, we explored a more streamlined approach by using a cooperative agreement. In essence, under a cooperative agreement, the RFP process was already done, at the state level, and the city would purchase the OpenGov software and services through Vertisoft, who is a third-party vendor that's under contract with the state. However, the software and the implementation services will be provided directly from OpenGov. Our goal through OpenGov's 5-phase approach is to go live with this system on January 1st of next year. To achieve this and avoid delays from day-to-day operations, we will initiate a SME program. These SMEs, or subject matter experts, made up of staff or temporary staff, will primarily be responsible to ensure that the project keeps moving forward and as planned and issues are resolved immediately. Staff augmentation and temporary staff needed for the SME program were included in the budget item earlier today. Cost for the software and services provided by OpenGov totals approximately $49,000 for the first year, and the licensing for the software, which will be the recurring fee, is only anticipated to go up about 5% yearly. With that, I would like to bring up the OpenGov team to share more information about the software and also their company.
Hello, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, staff of the City of Wildomar. My name is Jack Cohen. I'm the account executive at OpenGov for our permitting and licensing software. Really excited at the opportunity to speak with you all here. I'm originally from the Bay Area, but flew down here to meet you all in person. So reiterating what Robert said when we initially had spoken with the Community Development Department and kind of going through what the current situation was, multiple disconnected systems across building, public works, code, manual processes, and limited visibility for applicants within the permitting process, and within that initiative from City Council to streamline processes, make it easier and more business friendly as the city does grow. Going into the permitting and licensing software, so these are here what we refer to at OpenGov as service areas or modules. These are more also common use cases that we support across the country with over 700 customers within our permitting and licensing software, really showcasing the power within the software to be flexible of handling multiple types of permits and licenses that the city does issue or would like to issue going into the future. And really here is encapsulating what I refer to as the core tenets of the software. So starting off from the top, public portal, making it easy for residents to apply for permits and licenses while only filling out information that you need from them to process those permits. And then on the staff side, automating reviewer assignments to move approvals along faster, not having to track people down or rely on emails to follow up on permit review steps. We do operate on an unlimited user model, so anyone who needs access to the software can have that access. And through the public portal, applicants are able to track in real time where their permit is at in the review process and also communicate directly with the reviewer in charge of that step. The last piece here is a very big differentiator compared to other vendors on the market. Our software is a no-code solution, so making changes to an application or a workflow for a permit does not require reaching out to folks in IT to code in something in the back end or reaching out to a third party to make those changes. Staff would be trained to make those changes on their own. It's as easy as drag and drop, point and click, and you're able to adapt to changes on the fly. Here is just a snapshot of a few of our partners within the Southern California area. As I mentioned, we have over 700 across the United States. This not only, I think, speaks to the power and the flexibility of the software, but also the experience of OpenGov implementing the software and setting up our partners for long-term success. And on the right-hand side are some of the results that we have seen from people adopting the software. Overall, seeing faster permit issuance, spend less time on reporting, applications being submitted online, inspections completed digitally, and overall streamlining the process for applicants and also for staff. Here's the overview of the project of what OpenGov would be delivering within this implementation. From here, the record types are the application forms that OpenGov would build out, but there is no limit within the service areas of what the city can build underneath these as well, and within the training, showcasing to staff how easy it is to build those application forms too. Going into now the professional services side. So these are just a few of the support resources that you would have within a partnership within OpenGov. Not only do we put on regional user groups and conferences to help you facilitate and talk with folks who are in the system day to day and share best practices. There's also access to a help center, quarterly releases within cloud software that gets rolled out automatically to your instance. You don't need to pay for upgrades, on-demand webinars, and also a dedicated customer success manager for the city of Wildomar to help facilitate any support that you do need. Going into the implementation project itself, our professional services team combined has over 500 years of government experience and also experience throughout all of these projects and implementing them successfully across the country. So really you do have the tools at your dispense to be able to, answer any questions, institute best practices, and also post go live be able to work with a customer success manager, account executive, which would be me, and then also OpenGov support, which is available at all business hours. Our support office is located in Dallas, Texas. And then, as Robert mentioned, focusing on professional services, working with your team to focus on short-term and long-term goals, establishing best practices, balancing change management with goals and vision, and expediting time to value, so making sure that you are getting launched quickly and also successfully. And then focusing again at that customer success aspect, it's a partnership that we view goes on in perpetuity. Having an established point of contact, regular communication to build a strong partnership, working with staff to talk through product updates, expand your capabilities, and also establish long-term success within change management as well. Happy to answer any questions or any comments that I can answer.
Thank you for that presentation. City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up conversation up here on the dais. Councilmember Moore?
No, I'm excited to see if it actually works. We have had difficulties in the past with other vendors, and so everything on that slide says you do. You had mentioned Texas, but if it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, we can still get a hold of you.
Yeah, it is start a business, I believe, the Virgin Islands, so at least an hour ahead of East Coast time to close a business in Hawaii. So
Okay.
we'll have access, yes.
All right, thank you.
No? Do we have any neighboring cities that use this software?
In terms of the map, there's laid out a few there. To be honest, I don't exactly have the best understanding of geography within the LA, San Diego area, but also not shown here is City of Desert Hot Springs, City of Cali Mesa, City of Rosemead that just recently went live. This is currently being implemented in the City of South Pasadena, City of Inglewood, and also the City of Palm Springs.
I would say that the nearest jurisdictions is Cali Mesa and City of Pomona in this region.
And how long has this software been available?
The permitting licensing software through OpenGov has been available since 2017.
Okay. And then, if I heard you right, you mentioned that the state went through an RFP and chose the software. Is this correct? So
That is correct. The cooperative agreement, that process, it streamlines the process, so they took care of that, and then we're just entering into that agreement.
Cool. For our city manager, is there any integration with our app?
Yeah, that was one of the key issues we were focused in on to make sure that the software integrates nicely with some of the other softwares we're using, including C-Click-Fix.
Great.
And Symbiom as well, which we just recently launched for
Solar permitting.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, and then just to be clear, so we did, Robert, I heard you mention this earlier, but we approved the budget adjustment earlier already for this item.
Yes, sir.
However, it's only coming to council because the contract amount is higher than our city manager is able to.
Yes, sir.
Cool. So that's just, for the good of the group or the audience. The last question I have is, how long is the implementation support for? So I think in item 3.1, we talked about 205,000. So how, is there a time for
Yeah,
that?
so our implementation is estimated approximately 6 months for our launch in January. So that staff augmentation and the SME program is going to be for a 6-month period in order to facilitate the process.
And you said January, so January of 27?
January of 2027, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes my comments. Thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you very much.
So I'm looking for a motion to adopt.
Motion?
Sorry, I was reading the wrong one. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the license agreement. And, on the wrong
No, it's authorize the city manager to execute the end user license agreement. I motion.
Yeah, it's a motion to adopt the license agreement and requested actions on item 3.5, right? Thank you.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion carries 4-0.
All right, this now brings us to item 3.6, approval of an agreement for planning and development review services between the City of Wildomar and the City of Canyon Lake, presented by Robert Flores, Community Development Department.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This item 3.6 is for an agreement between City of Wildomar and City of Canyon Lake for planning professional services rendered by Wildomar to Canyon Lake. Again, I want to get started with staff recommendations. We recommend approval of this item as presented in the staff report, which includes approving the agreement between Canyon Lake and Wildomar, which was presented in the staff report, and also authorizing the city manager to execute that agreement. Now, staff from both cities of Canyon Lake and Wildomar have been in discussion about this partnership and the requested services that Wildomar can provide to Canyon Lake, which include public counter services on the planning side, minor reviews on the planning side, entitlement reviews and preparation, and limited CEQA scope. Work. Now, logistically, how this will work, if Wildomar enters into this agreement, the current approved and budgeted position for the associate planner, which is currently in the books, will be responsible for providing these services at a 50% capacity on average. What does this mean? Whether we provide services for a few hours or several days in the week, on average, our contractual services will not exceed half of the time of that associate planner. I want to emphasize that most, if not all, the work may be completed remotely, and Canyon Lake will be responsible for half of the fully burdened costs for this position to ensure full cost recovery. Now, the associate planner for Wildomar, which is we are currently hiring, we actually just had interviews today, will also work on mid to large scale housing and mixed use projects for Wildomar as assigned, and this will allow us to reduce our reliance on contractual services for planning projects. To help achieve our plan, a lot of the tedious tasks currently assigned to this role, the associate planner, will be shifted to the planning tech, which was also on the agenda this evening, not only to ensure appropriate work assignments for the classification, but also to help us meet our commitments under this agreement. Now, the agreement is drafted for a 3-year period with possible administrative extensions. If this framework works well for both cities, the agreement or a similar one must be brought back to this council for continuation of services beyond the established timelines. Now, this type of interagency collaboration creates a partnership between neighboring cities that furthers regional collaboration, creates an effective model for to further our own goals for efficiency and overall process improvements, all while ensuring full cost recovery with no subsidy from Wildomar for this partnership. With that, I conclude my report, and I'm available for any questions.
City Clerk, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up discussion up here on the dais. Pro Tem?
Okay, I might have missed the part where you said this. How does it benefit us?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep.
Let me just, a little bit of history of this. So several months back, I was approached by Aaron Brown, who's the city.
So, you know, so I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just.
I have a really good answer for that.
Okay.
Was approached by Canyon Lake City Manager Aaron Brown with this concept. Canyon Lake's in a very unique position. They have a need to provide these services, but they don't have a whole lot of demand, right? There's not a lot of development that goes on in the city of Canyon Lake. And yet, they have people coming in to build a house or do a patio cover or, or a renovation. And so every once in a while, they have a need for these services, but not enough to justify hiring a full-time person in-house. Historically, they've contracted for this work because of more recent developments with CalPERS, they are now scared to continue that practice. And so they approached us and asked, look, do you have anyone that you might be able to, can we contract with you and you provide the service? The timing was good for us because we were needing to hire for this associate planner position anyway. So we met with Aaron Brown, Robert and I, and we thought about, well, how could this work? Canyon Lake's offer is quite generous to us. They will pay 50% of this position, but anticipate using it about 20% of the time. Right? That's not benefits, right? And so the other thing it does for us is with this position and the addition of the planning tech, which was authorized earlier tonight, it will allow us to all but pretty much eliminate our monthly spend with M&S engineers for overflow planning work, right? And we're spending a significant amount every month there. So with this shared position and the planning tech, we're going to be able to save a lot of money on the contracting side. So that's another way it benefits us. Yeah.
That was my only real question. I thank you for answering that, and I'm supportive.
Councilmember Moore?
So I like hearing that part. My question was who is going to review the billing? Because I was just afraid of billing going to the wrong city, right? Being billed for hours on the wrong timesheet.
So there is no billing. We will be tracking the work that's done, but the billing will actually be done by Wildomar to Canyon Lake.
Okay.
And Canyon Lake will be making that payment.
Right.
So, and we'll work closely with our finance division to ensure that that is all adequate.
Hey, got it.
That was your question. All right.
What would Joseph ask? I'll make him. All right, go ahead.
Got some comments, sorry.
My bad.
So for our city manager, just want to reiterate one of the comments that you just made. The associate planner position was one position that we already had on our approved list of jobs, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the rhetorical question, why this higher level position instead of the planning tech position that we approved earlier?
I will let our community development director answer that.
Let me just clarify the question. Why are we using the associate planner for this role? The reason for that is because the scope of needed services from Canyon Lake necessitates that level of professional. So the planning tech is technically just responsible for technical aspects, intake, application, routing, things of that nature, whereas the associate planner can address zoning code questions, process permits, entitlements, and things of that nature, so that they can handle the full scope of the services that are needed. So.
Great. And then the last comment I have is because this was already an approved position, then there really isn't a risk for us if Canyon Lake were to pull out. We've already got this position budgeted, correct?
That's correct. I suppose if Canyon Lake were to back out at some point, what we would have to analyze is, do we still have the need for the planning tech position? We would need the associate planner position either way.
Yeah. Got it. All right, that concludes my comments on this item. I'm looking now.
I'll make a motion what are we approving here, though?
Just approve the agreement and requested actions.
To approve the agreement, Canyon Lake.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries 5-0.
Don't worry, audience. We have 2 more left.
All right, this brings us to item 3.7, the Veterans and First Responders Memorial Ad Hoc Committee, presented by our city clerk, Jeanette Morales Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item before you is to appoint 2 council members to serve on a Veterans and First Responders Memorial Ad Hoc Committee. This item is a follow-up to the stakeholder engagement workshop as part of the Wildomar Cemetery Master Plan, and it was also requested as a future agenda item by Councilmember Moore at the last meeting. So the purpose of this committee is to review options related to the memorial design, location, funding, and implementation, and ultimately will return to the City Council for final consideration and review and approval. So with that, staff recommends that you appoint 2 members to the ad hoc committee.
Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
All right, that'll bring up discussion up to the dais.
All right, you know what? I'm going to make this really quick. Recommend me and Carlos do this thing and we can move on.
Well, I would like to be on it, sorry. Throw a wrench in there.
I didn't think you could.
No, I can. Why?
Because WVP. You can bring the money.
No, well, our attorney can
That was my
clarify.
assumption. Okay.
That's not a financial.
Okay. Well, then go. I'll pass it down. Me and Bridget then, or whoever's. I'm just trying to get this thing going. So.
I would
I want
prefer
to
the
be on it for
veteran.
sure. That's
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
yeah,
So-
and then the parks,
Part of
veterans.
it,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so motion for me and Bridget.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All opposed?
Cool. Sorry.
Motion carries 5-0.
That was the fastest item today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, item 3.8, professional service agreement with
Don't even bother presenting. I'm joking.
with Albert A. Webb and Associates for planning and environmental services for creation of a city-initiated specific plan for the Old Town are presented. Is that right? By Community Development Director Robert Flores.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Last but not least, we do have this agreement before the council today for contractual services, planning services for the proposed and anticipated Old Town specific plan along Palomar within that Old Town area. Again, I want to get started with staff recommendations. Staff does recommend approval of this item as presented in the staff report, which includes authorizing the city manager to execute the agreements and appropriate supplemental funds from Fund 110 within fiscal year 2026-2027 to cover associated costs for the agreement and the specific plan effort. Now, I wanted to get started with this slide just to show a visual representation of some images that are actually found in our RFP documents that we received that will visually represent outcomes of a well-planned area. Most of these images are from specific plan documents, but one thing that I want to emphasize with these images, besides the effectiveness of specific plans, is that although features you see on the slides may come to fruition on a project-by-project basis under general policy and regulatory documents, the specific plan allows for a holistic approach to well-planned areas. Specific plans provide for consistent and orderly development under one framework and not in a piecemeal fashion. So I hope that the previous slide helped paint a picture of the outcome of an area that's planned under a specific plan, but why does this project matter? A specific plan is more than just a planning document. The plan can provide for several opportunities, including establishing or reestablishing the community's vision that may create a path forward for a true historic destination while preserving the historic character and possibly making this area the heart of Wildomar. In addition to consistent and orderly development, the specific plan can promote a walkable and healthy community, create gathering spaces, and support both local business and economic development. Having a specific plan provides a level of certainty for development that may attract private investment by creating a roadmap for the next 20 years of investment and revitalization. Now, the specific plan may, in fact, be one of the most significant planning efforts for this area since incorporation. Without the plan, development may be disjointed, uncoordinated. Streetscapes and gathering spaces will not have a united theme. Economic development opportunities may be missed, and historic resources may not be integrated into the fabric of the development or even may be lost. With the specific plan, there's one vision, one implementation strategy, one set of development standards, one community identity, and one roadmap for public and private investment, which will create a predictable framework that is what investors are looking for. As you can see on the slide, besides the programmatic benefits of the plan, the effort under the proposed agreement will provide a long list of tangible documents prepared by the consultant that can lead up to adoption of the plan that details the future of this Old Town area. Now, I want to emphasize this. From day one, staff will ensure that this is a community-driven plan that establishes a community vision using the 2013 visioning effort as a foundation, as a starting point. Community outreach is of utmost importance to the plan and foundational to the process. Webb, in their proposal, presented a robust outreach program that provides several opportunities for decision makers and community members alike to get involved, from initial meetings and foundational vision setting events to public participation in selection of the final land use plan. In addition to several opportunities to provide direct feedback from the planning commissioners, city council members, and stakeholders such as businesses and residents, we'll have 2 community meetings, additional outreach pop-up events, workshops, and a survey that are all part of the plan put forward by Webb for this project. This level of outreach is actually typical of a planning effort such as a comprehensive update of the general plan, which is an indicator of the comparable importance of the city-initiated specific plan, especially in this area that does not have one large property owner to take on this effort, making this a prime opportunity for the city to drive the future of this area. Now, as part of our transparency effort, there are a few things the community should know for this type of planning effort. No immediate changes to existing businesses and residents is necessary. A specific plan does not require property owners to develop their property or sell it. Rather, it creates opportunity and possibly value for the land or business. However, if adopted, the specific plan may include requirements such as improvements and other requirements on current development and businesses should they choose to develop or redevelop that land. One benefit that can be found in a specific planned area is economic viability. This plan is, in its implementation, may increase activity for existing businesses, create community identity, identify well-planned infrastructure and improvements, and induce greater investment or reinvestment for the Old Town area with a framework that facilitates the development while maintaining the community character. The specific plan may, if aligned with the community vision, celebrate and maintain the history of the area and Wildomar itself. As you can see on the slide, there are several analyses and surveys. Historic preservation is an important part of the work plan prepared for this project. Now, this planning effort is anticipated to take about 1.5 to 2 years, with much of this time slated for community outreach and input. We are not in a hurry to finish this, but we do want to ensure that the plan is adequate and community-driven. Where we can, we will be efficient to ensure that the plan is in place before inconsistent development occurs, but we want quality over quantity. And lastly, the total cost of this robust planning effort is approximately $450,000 per the agreement. To put this into perspective, the latest update to the general plan, not including the housing element, costed approximately $1.5 million. This type of investment in the community will establish a well-thought-out, well-established, community-driven framework to guide investment in this area for decades to come. With that, I conclude my report, and I'm available to answer any questions and look forward for feedback from the council and the community alike. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for that presentation. City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
All right, we'll bring up our conversation to the dais.
Okay. Did we make any progress? I think Ashley mentioned this last time about establishing that area as an old town or historic area.
So the proposal as presented does have features that work towards identifying a structure in order to designate this area. We did do a little bit of research on our end from as far as staff, and we looked at state designations and federal designations of this effort. Typically, in those instances, it takes about a year, 1.5 years for the process, and it does can cost tens of thousands to over $100,000 just to create the reports and go through the process to designate an area. But there's also an option for like a local designation and local ordinances that would allow us to designate that area locally. And that's something that we can look at with the specific plan, and with all the efforts and all the historic resources and studies we're going to be doing, we can establish that framework in order to achieve that designation.
I ask because, so by doing this, by proceeding with this framework, or even the local municipal ordinance, designating that area, whatever area we decide, as a historic old town, whatever we want to call it, does it provide any legal safeguards from like California, just putting their finger on the button, or, on the scale?
So if I understand what you're asking correctly, a lot of the housing bills
that kind of
require certain things. A lot of these bills and these requirements from the state do provide for, if an area is designated as historic, it may not qualify for those streamlined processes and projects. And local designation does, from my understanding, does qualify to disqualify certain projects in this area.
My last question, thank you. How are we paying for it?
We are paying for it through development agreement funds that we receive. So that's going to be transferred into a fund that's going to pay for this effort. So it's not
no
general fund. No general fund.
Okay. And this will be something this will be a living document that we can kind of hold on to for the next 20, 30 years?
This will be our document. It'll be a city and nation. Actually, all specific plans, even if they're applicant-driven, are city documents, city policy documents, and we will be able to amend it, update it, and do what we feel is necessary with the document.
The only thing I want to avoid is this. I feel like I'm in favor of it, but if we go forward with it and there's a bunch of recommendations, what I would hate to do is 10 years from now have to come back and we have to do another study because this is out of date now.
Well, typically,
that always seems to be the case.
Yeah, typically specific plans have a lifespan or a shelf life, if you will, of about 20 years.
Okay.
So just like a general plan and other long-range planning documents, you do want to update those as things change, but it's not going to be in 10 years unless there's some item that needs to be addressed that just during implementation we can't. It just doesn't work. But staff can take on that effort. At that point, for minor changes, we don't need to contract with anybody. Staff can actually handle that minor change.
Okay. And before going forward with this, I'm assuming we tell the contractor, hey, this is the area we're looking at, or do they look at the entire city?
No, we actually, through our RFP process, this actually did go through the formal RFP process. We identified the area, the goals, and the vision, and they presented us with a proposal, so they're well aware of the area.
Okay.
We will be discussing that, whether we need to add a portion in, remove a portion out because it doesn't make sense, but generally the area is already defined.
All right, and we're aware that there's a fault line right there across the street?
We are aware of that, and there is...
Why wouldn't there be? Yeah.
Just a point of clarification, we're not, with the proposal, it's not going to be actually providing the studies on fault. It's just going to be providing a framework. We're going to be looking at data that's already existing to see where these fault lines are, to establish requirements for future development to actually address that.
Boundaries or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you, Robert.
Yeah.
Councilmember Moore?
So kind of on the same lines as my colleague, so if a builder was to come in and build that large parcel at Palomar and Wildomar Trail, right now, like while we're doing this, they wouldn't be able to do that?
Right now, they would be able to come in under the existing general plan and municipal code, but we do have that overlay boundary that guides that development while we adopt this specific plan. So there's some limitation, but they still do fall under, and they can develop under the existing requirements without the specific plan.
And right now, do we have any prospects?
We do not have any prospects, and that overlay does kind of restrict what they can do in that area. So it's still kind of in line with the vision, but it doesn't provide the full scope of what we need to really control the development.
And so where is the area? It's like how far south?
So it's along Palomar, as far north as Wesley, and then as far south as McVicker. And then along Wildomar Trail, there is about a 1 mile stretch to the east that captures Wildomar Trail as part of this area as well. And it's approximately 300 acres.
So from Wildomar Trail, east and west, you're saying a mile?
So on Palomar, along Palomar, from McVicker to the south to Wesley. But then there's like an extension on Wildomar Trail that's to the east. So there's an additional piece that stretches into Wildomar Trail, but it's mostly along Palomar.
Okay. So what could someone then, with this now having this specific plan, what could they build on that large parcel? Just generally?
Well, we haven't established a specific plan, so we don't know that. That's what we will be talking about with the community and seeing what do you want to see there, and then we can possibly make changes to that. Currently, that's a commercial piece, so they can develop anything in our commercial zone, general commercial zone, with the limitation of no gas stations, no car washes and things of that nature. And also the overlay restricts them and requires them to actually develop the site in accordance to this effort with the specific plan.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hey, before you move on real quick, I just, after or if this is approved, can we limit or prohibit development until the study is complete in those areas?
That would be a question I would have to lean on our city attorney to answer.
Just in that way we're not wasting money, you know.
Sure, you can do.
Or certain types of development, maybe. It's just,
you could consider a development moratorium in that area while the studies and while the specific plan is being completed. Although there's some recent case law that says you have to have a pending application to do. So there's really no need to do one right now because there's no applications pending.
I feel like that would be more of a reason for them to sue us if they were applying and then, okay. But
Case
that's
law
something we
says
could do if something would, okay. Okay.
Because you do it as an urgency measure, so you do it so it's effective immediately.
Okay.
So you got to show that there's something urgent happening, and what that urgency is there's an application.
Okay. My thought with that, with my colleagues, is just if we're going to spend the money.
You also got to consider they're only effective for 2 years, so the time, a moratorium, the maximum amount of time is 2 years.
Oh.
So the timing's got to line up right. I don't know
that's
how
true.
long this specific plan will take to be adopted and to be effective.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want your moratorium time to run out before.
While we're still in the study.
While you're still processing specific.
I wouldn't want to waste the money, and then that's all. That's
Correct.
my thinking with that.
I mean, if Robert starts getting applications, we can.
Then okay.
And our code requires a pre-application, so we'll know well ahead before they submit entitlements when something's coming.
Okay.
So one clarification. So could you say pending, and I don't think it affects us, but we have the veterinarian that's trying to open behind Montague's or behind.
That is actually outside of the boundary of
Okay.
the specific plan, so it doesn't affect it, and it will continue to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah, lucky.
All right. Well, we'll move on to Councilmember Morabito. I'm actually eager to hear your comments since this is right in your district, or the majority of this.
All right, well, let me just ask an opening question based on some of the stuff I heard. So this wasn't going to be paid for out of general funds, correct?
Correct.
But they are Wildomar funds.
They are Wildomar funds, and I'll lean on Mr. Jans to explain more if I can't. But from my understanding, they're funds and revenue that we have obtained through our development agreements, either through cannabis or any other agreement. And so those funds are sitting there, and we will transfer them into a fund that will pay for this effort.
Right, but I mean, it's not like we got make up a grant, that's only for sidewalks over here or something. It's still Wildomar money, so.
It is still.
Well, I think the clarification is, and Adam, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be something that's for the community benefit. So it's, we can't just use it for
willy-nilly
whatever we want, right?
Yes, so the development agreements for cannabis specific specify that it's for community development to commensurate with the private benefits that were conferred with the allowances of the development agreement to sell cannabis for those items.
And some may argue that it would be more of a stretch for this use versus, let's say, part of a park. That's a little more direct, or even part of a Veterans Memorial or something. But anyway, so with that, I'll just say, so I have a couple points written down. I'll just say, though I don't really get the concept of manufacturing a historical area, I like the general idea. But it's way too much money. It's a third of the price of our general plan update. Now because this third point has got a bunch of questions, so I do want answers, but maybe some of the answers, there might be one answer for 5 questions, and they are pointed, and so, I apologize if these aren't nice, but, so here it is. Where are the landowners of most of those impacted areas? Why are they here tonight? I don't see anybody out there. If not, why not? What type of outreach to them was done? Did they respond? If they didn't respond, how many times was contact attempted before we gave up? Did we post a notice on the properties? Did we post the item anywhere near there, like the usual billboard thing that would be like across from Montague Brothers? Hey, meeting tonight, meeting 2 weeks from now. So I'll pause at that third point. I've got two small ones after that, but do we have any responses to that?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address that. One of the main reasons why this particular firm was selected from the firms that submitted proposals is that their proposal included a very heavy dose of community engagement, community outreach. Everything that you described is part of the process ahead of us through this specific plan. Now, I understand your point, which is, maybe we'd like to get feedback from property owners before even deciding whether to move forward, right? But that is part of the process itself. We very intentionally picked a firm in a process that included reaching out, and part of our commitment as staff will be to make sure that the property owners that are affected are included. There will be workshops with the community. There will be multiple opportunities because the whole concept is for the community to come together and help decide the vision for this area of the city, not for it to be dictated by a consultant or even the council, or certainly not staff, but for the community, people who are going to be living in this vision, to come together and contribute to it. But that's an extensive process, and that's not something that we can do internally. We have the bandwidth to do internally. It's one of the main reasons why we need a consultant to help us through the process.
Appreciate that. I would just say that, because you mentioned community engagement, which is great, but if you guys are planning community engagement on my property without telling me ahead of time, you're going to have a problem. I mean, and I don't have any property but my little house, so I'd have to think somebody's got, is that 10 acres, 6 acres, whatever it is, and then across the way that used to be like a U-Haul place for a while, they might be thinking the same things, like, you're going to tell me what my future property can and can't be. It just seems counterproductive or counterintuitive to me, the guy who says that he's property owner, property land owners' rights guy. So that's there. So with my fourth point was, so what did we do with that area in the general plan update or the 2013 visioning project?
So actually, this item and this effort is consistent with the general plan. So the general plan is a citywide effort. It doesn't get into the details of specific areas. That's why this specific plan is ideal. But the general plan did identify several areas throughout the city that are focus areas for specific plans. One of those areas is the Bluffs property, which is going through a specific plan. Another area is this Old Town area. So it was anticipated by the general plan for this to undergo this type of effort. And as I believe, what was your second question?
Or the 2013 visioning project. If we already have something out there, I'm not sure.
So the 2013 visioning project it was a long time ago. So this effort will incorporate that. Like I said, it's going to be a starting point, but that vision may have changed. So it may not be the same. If it is the same, then we will move forward with that vision. If it's not the same, that's the purpose of the community outreach, so we can obtain that feedback and identify if there's a property owner that doesn't want any change on their property, then we can leave it alone and ensure that the vision is still the same or establish a vision in order to move this project forward, and this specific plan can speak to that vision.
Sure. And I remember reading when this came up last time, because there was like a 70-page PDF booklet or something in there, and one of the comments in there, I don't know who to attribute it to, but it had said, in addition to this, and you kind of alluded to it, that we won't be doing certain studies, but it did say expensive seismic studies would also need to be done. And so it's one of those deals where name anything that's got two parts, but you're really only anticipating the first part. So,
but
I mean, what they're saying, no, that for the whole, I don't know, because actually where they were talking about, I would assume everywhere.
If I may, as Councilmember Nate alluded to earlier, there is a fault line that we've identified in this area. So even without this specific plan, anybody that wants to come develop on that property, they have to provide a study to identify the fault line and how that's going to be addressed. So there's no difference to what's required now. I believe the proposal just said that in addition to what we're going to do, which are the studies that I listed in my presentation, future development will still have to do precise studies to identify the fault line and identify any buffers and things of that nature. But that's being done, that would be required to be done now as well.
Right. I just wanted to mention that that was in the package of it that was presented to us last month. So where that would fall, I don't know. I know part of the reason we want to do this, it turns it into a turnkey project for who wants to take the ball and move forward. And I would love it if there's somebody just waiting outside the door, like, I can't wait till they get that done, and I'm next. I'm going to just jump in there. But I don't have that those same warmy feelings that's going to happen. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, because if you go to these meetings where you said community outreach and whatnot, it feels like it's going to happen right then. I can think back more than 10 years ago where we were doing a parks master plan, and it felt like, oh my gosh, look at all these parks in Wildomar. Pretty much nothing's happened, other than we do have the one in McVicker. But so that's all I'm saying, is that I know that that's the idea, to get it to a turnkey. All right, so my last point here is that there's currently a specific plan being developed for the Bluffs. My understanding is it's being pushed by the landowners, and it isn't being paid for by the city. I approve that model when it comes to specific plans. They pay, we don't. So it may go 4-1. We'll see.
If I may, like I mentioned earlier, in the Bluffs area, that's one property owner, and they can undertake that effort to plan out that area because it is a significant area. Within the Old Town area, we have multiple property owners. So to gain coordination of all those property owners to undertake an effort like this would be complicated. So like I said, the city taking on this effort would help facilitate that process and plan that area well without that's why it's a city-initiated specific plan, not an applicant-driven specific plan. Because there's no one property owner that owns 170 acres just like they do with the Bluffs.
Sure. And I appreciate your answers. And let me just say, look, I've been told I can be argumentative, and I don't want to argue with you about it. We're just having a conversation, get the facts out there.
Of course.
So I don't have any issues with staff or anything, but I'm just saying that, so I gave my views already. I don't need to reiterate them. So there we go. Thank you.
Sorry. That dovetails nicely, the end of your comments, with some of my questions. So understanding that it's about 300 acres, how many properties are there in that area that are affected?
I don't have a count of the properties. I will say there are a lot of small lots, which is something we're looking forward to addressing. And I believe some of these small lots actually have the fault line, so there's very limited area that can be developed. But there are also some larger pieces, anywhere between 5 and 10 acres each, and a lot of vacant land that's prime for opportunity, but I don't have the actual count of the parcels that are in that area.
Do you have a count of the empty parcels in the area?
We actually do have that information, but I don't have it with me today.
Okay. Another question I have, what kind of interest has been shown in this area for especially the vacant properties?
Interest as far as development?
Yeah.
So specifically along this area, besides the projects we already have in that area, I believe there's been 1 or 2 inquiries. One, I believe, was identified as a U-Haul location previously. Somebody showed interest in wanting to establish something there, but we also shared that there was this plan potentially moving forward, and also. There was one inquiry about the larger parcel on the corner of Palomar and Wildomar Trail, but with the limitations that we currently have in our code, that was like a gas station, car wash type deal. That kind of went away. But other than that, I don't recall any other inquiries or activity besides the 2 housing projects that we have along that area.
Okay, thank you. So I guess that's just one of the concerns I have, is if we don't do this, what are we leaving it to? What kind of, do we want those kinds of projects right there, or do we want something better? That's my biggest interest in seeing something like that. Right. All right. So that said, you mentioned local designation. So I had the same interest in this as Dustin was explaining, with protecting the area. So you're saying a local designation would give it similar protections from potentially from some of the
state legislation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So that designation or that criteria that the projects need to meet applies to local, state, and federal designations. And districts, because this would be a district, unless we can identify a structure that's historically significant, it would be a designation of the district, and those two comply with that.
Okay, thank you. And then, design, so just getting back to that question from last month, design and architectural guidelines, is that something that, so along the lines of what Joseph's saying, is that something we could address, those two things, if there is some kind of a in-between? I do have concerns about the amount of money that it is, but I also have a concern with how does it develop without us putting in some safeguards, and so that's where I'm at.
Okay.
I'm happy because with the cannabis DAs, there has to be the community benefit. I mean, yes, you can do parks, you can do a bunch of different things, but the bottom line is there are certain things that are community benefits, and I think that an argument can be made. This is maybe not money I want to spend out of my own pocket, but if we have to say, hey, this is going to be a benefit, I think this could be a benefit to the entire community. So that's where I'm kind of.
I'd like to offer this, that I met with a resident that she lives in my district, and she actually was for this, and she didn't have a problem with the money. But I will say this, that let's just say, because there had been a little bit of money, and they did this in 2013, so the, whatever we call it, the specific plan or whatever.
The visioning project.
Visioning thing. Then that means 12 years later, actually that's 2013, so 13 years later, it would have been a waste of money in that if you wanted it to turn into a project. So there's every likelihood that that corner will be empty in 10 years. Because it's a fault line. It's not look, we love it in Wildomar, but there's a house behind it that's, unless somebody's going to buy that and say, see you later. Sorry if you live there, you're in my district, but let's be real. Anyway, no, seriously, that's not the greatest. And across the way, it's all a very TLC area. It needs some tender loving care, the whole area. It's not a wide open nothing thing that you can just go put in a master area. So if somebody said, put your $20 down, I'm putting it on, it's going to be vacant in 10 years. And so to spend any money is, okay, but 450,000, budgeting that much, that's like, okay, that's beyond reasonable to me. But.
Councilmember Morbido, if I may, just want to add on the visioning document, one use of it that I'm aware of, we did use it as part of the design process for the Palomar Street widening. So it did inform like the color palette, the aesthetics that we chose between the trail and the crosswalks and the fencing. So I don't know if it's been used outside of that, but I just did want to just make that note.
And I will add that was an effort under a grant that was issued to the city. And, that was money well spent. It was engaging in the community, and we identified the vision. And with this effort, it would not let that go to waste. Besides some of the items we have used it for, it would actually further that. And our goal is to get it to a finish line and get an adopted specific plan where we can implement that vision.
So what I'm hearing is it wasn't a waste of money in 2013.
Nice.
All right. I've got some general comments on this. Let's see where to start. I guess the first thing I'll say is I share Joseph's sentiment around not being a fan of telling a property owner what they can and cannot do outside of what's an area is zoned for. I guess I have a concern, though. If this moves forward, would this restrict somebody from, saying, adding an ADU?
So on residential properties, no, they can continue to do that. Now, if you have a situation where through the process a residential property becomes commercial, then that if there's a residence on the property, that would become a legal nonconforming use, and an ADU won't be allowed in that sense. But I do want to explain that our goal is not to go and take the map and start recoloring it and making changes. Our goal is to maintain status quo unless through the community outreach and through the vision, we need to make changes in certain, it's going to be very selective changes. We need to make changes, then we will implement that with the specific plan. But our goal is to be consistent with the general plan, consistent with zoning, but at a level of framework and a level of requirements that would help us achieve our vision and our goals.
All right, and I guess I also want to circle back to a comment that you made earlier, Robert, that property owners could opt out of being included in the specific plan.
Yeah.
So if that were to happen, do we risk having the stretch of area that is designated for the specific plan, but now we have, maybe gaps along the way?
So I didn't mean, and I'll correct myself if I did say that way, I didn't mean opt out from being within the boundary of the specific plan, but opt out, like, for example, if it's a commercial use and that's what they anticipate doing, we will keep it commercial. But all other requirements like improvements to buildings, if it's a historic designation, if it's a historic building, it has to follow certain criteria. All those things will apply to the business, and all the things that make sense for this specific plan will apply, but we're just not going to mess with the use of the property.
Okay, so then just to follow up on that then, so, and maybe correct my understanding if it's wrong, but, so if a property owner, or their property is currently designated residential and they want to keep it residential, then we would keep it residential in the specific plan?
Well, I would say, real quick, wouldn't it be, we zone it commercial, they could stay as residential until there's a change of status, right? I mean, that's a benefit to the resident if we change the zoning to commercial for the property value.
Well, I think that's what I'm trying to get to,
okay.
because now if I want to add an ADU, he just said I can't.
Yeah, okay.
But keep in mind, and I want to just explain that the specific plan is, if you think of the general plan and the municipal code, and you marry those together, that's what a specific plan is over a geographical area. So this project has to be consistent with those documents and will govern over that area. So we can build in provisions that would allow an ADU or allow legal nonconforming use in addition to allowing an ADU on those, which currently we don't generally in the city. We can actually write in that provision. We're basically writing our own rules. Obviously, we want to be consistent with the general plan. We want to be consistent with our vision, but we can put in provisions to address if those kind of things are brought up to our attention through community outreach. We can find ways to write that into the specific plan to make things work.
Sure. All right. Going back to the cost, so you said it's about $450,000. Councilmember Morbido mentioned that it's a substantial amount of money, and I might be putting words in your mouth. So if I am, just tell me. But he mentioned the possibility of maybe using that for parks, right? And so, Adam, in the current cannabis funds, I think we have what, 3.5 or 4.5 million?
Yes, approximately 4.5 million.
So approximately 4.5. We looked at the 20-acre park earlier for phase 0, A, B plus phase 1. That's over 4.5, right? Or because it was about 4 million plus the additional million for phase 0, right? So in theory, could we use those funds to open the park? Yeah, but I think the other thing that we have to consider is the maintenance of the park. Monty's also talked about the enforcement and whether or not we'd be able to keep that. So I don't know that we can necessarily go ahead and open that park right away, or even with phase 0 and 1 with the funds that we have. So if that money is just sitting there right now, I think there is a community benefit to this. As they mentioned, it was something that was brought forth in 2013 during the visioning effort. And I think we're also going to be doing our due diligence to make sure that either, yes, this is in line with still in line with the community's vision for this area, or if not, they have the opportunity to engage, interact, and tell us what they want to see in this space.
Yes, sir.
All right, so.
Can I just add to my comments a little bit?
Yeah.
So I will say I'm a little disappointed that there wasn't any outreach, just because, even just knowing, I would feel more comfortable with this if I, knew how many properties, that there's been some outreach, all of that. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with this vote. So I just wanted to mention that for future, because I feel like we talked about it a bit last meeting. So I just wanted to mention that.
And then do we have a cost comparison on pursuing the local historical designation without the specific plan?
I believe when we looked at that, that local designation would be the one that was in the tens of thousands, so it could range anywhere, because each study can range anywhere from 10 to 20, 30,000, and then the process to designate that area and create, we would have to create a section in our code that identifies how to designate an area and what qualifies. So that whole process can be anywhere between, be $50,000 and $60,000 for that local designation. The ones that are more expensive, from, if I recall correctly, are the state and federal designations.
All right, and then the last thing, or the last comment I have, and I feel like I'm getting mixed information on this, so I hope that, Robert, you can provide some clarity. With this specific plan, can we block an SB 35 project from coming into this area?
With the specific plan document itself, no, because it's still housing. The land use and zoning is still housing, so the bills would apply. But if we explore the designation of this area as a historic district, that's one of the criteria that those bills look at. And if that is designated as a historic district, then that may help try to prevent those projects from moving into that area. So it's a feature of the specific plan, not the specific plan itself.
Got it.
Well, and just to mention, I mean, I wish it went further north because we have two SB 330s on Wesley and Como that are proposed. So, my point is it's coming. And so if we don't do this, they can just keep coming down.
Also, we just pay for the general plan. How much did that cost? And we spent how much time, right?
It was approximately $1.5 million.
Yeah,
and it was about
a lot of time, money, and
2 or 3 year
staff,
effort.
and residents. And you're telling me that we have different parts of the general plan where these areas are pinpointed for likely specific plan, right?
Yes.
Specific plans. This is being one of them. I think we're doing our due diligence and we're being judicious. I mean, with kind of keeping the continuity of what we already spent money on and kind of keeping the flow going. And we're not even spending out of the general fund. So, I mean, that's not a bad. I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Boom.
All right. I'll start with all opposed. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1 with Councilmember Morbido voting no.
And guys, I'm going to take off right now. My kids have been in and out for 2 hours waiting for pick them up. They got the hair done without talking to me, so I dropped her off. But I got to go. So, yes, it's been a pleasure. And I'm sure I'll see you guys all tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow night, baseball. So, have a good night. Monty, good seeing you, man. Yeah.
All right, this brings us to council communications. Councilmember Moore.
Yeah, I'll go quickly. I think I have some pictures. So we held a special needs. This is for the adults with special needs. In the picture is Heather. She lives in Wildomar. She's a teacher. And also Mr. Klingman, who just retired. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. That was also a picture. So we had about 100 special needs adults at the park. That was amazing. Attended the Mill Vet event. It was at March Air Force Base, so very good job. Next. Oh, so I have to mention Cheryl Aid. So Cheryl Aid is on the right. She has the blonde hair, the black dress. This was the inaugural city picture. This is at Elsinore High School on July 1st, 2008. I met Cheryl for the first time during the Wildomar Incorporation Now committee, so we were on the committee together for 5 years. She was a mentor to me. I didn't know a lot when I first joined the Wildomar Incorporation Now. I'm still learning today, but so she was very helpful and was teaching me a lot. And then so sadly she has passed away, so I didn't want to bring that up. I have not heard of any services at this time, but I could let staff know. I'm not sure if anyone else remembers Cheryl. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so Tom and I. Well, Jeanette, I think you were here. Yeah. Okay, next. This is our Memorial Day event, so good job by our mayor for doing the MC for that. Attended the Wildomar Historical Society fundraiser. They had the Stadium Pizza. And also on the note of the Wildomar Historical Society, they have asked my nonprofit to host the bell ringing. So we do have a historic, I know when you were saying that, we do have a historic building, the bell with the tower. And inside that bell, you know, is a time capsule. I don't remember when we're supposed to open it at this time. I'll have to ask Bob, but there is one in there. And that's on the corner of Palomar and Wildomar Trail.
Yeah.
So the bell ringing, we ring it on our birthday, so July 1st at 7 p.m. We do it at night when it's during the week because it's so hot. So 7 p.m. So we will be having that event. And I think I sent the flyer out, and I know our mayor will be there, so thank you. I do want to mention, because Lieutenant Reese is still in the back, we attended Elsinore High School Scholarship Night where we were able to present scholarships on behalf of Cops for Kids, so thank you. Councilman Morbido and I attended the joint division meeting with our League of California Cities with Riverside and San Bernardino, attended the chamber breakfast last month, again tomorrow. Also, Santa Rosa Plateau had their annual car show. It was a really good event, so we're happy to do that. I did attend Invention Convention in Michigan last week, and I mentioned that because we had 2 students that were picked. There was 300,000 students competing in 35 states. 513 of them were selected to go compete at Invention Convention, and 2 of those students were from Wildomar. And one of the students, while we were there, they had also entered their invention into Technovation, which is global. And one of our Wildomar students was selected, and they only selected 2 projects from the United States in the junior vision, and hers is one of them. So that's amazing. Yeah, thank you. The students are from Julia Lee Performing Arts Academy, if you're wondering. They're just outside Wildomar's border on Grand. I attended the Wild O Market Space, and it was a good turnout, so they're getting some traction. So if you haven't been, the next one will be Sunday, July 5th, so please attend. It's over here off Deep Pasquale, and it's at the church, the Faith Bible Church. Also, we held the Elsinore School District Senior Citizen Prom at the Senior Center, and that was a great event. WVV helped 2 seniors, so with fire prevention, trimming back all the overgrowth on these properties, helping our senior citizens, and also attended the Temecula State of the City.
Well, there's really only one thing, especially 10 minutes to 10. So today, I was at RCTC. Wildomar was on the agenda, and I didn't think it was going to be an issue, and it wasn't. It was nice to be able to say when the staff presentation was over, I had arranged already with the chair, because it's a huge group. It's at least 25 people. And I just say, hey, look, if somebody else chimes in before me, go to me anyway. So he did, and I said, thank you for the presentation. I move approval, right? And then it was like second, and because versus going for discussion. But Jason, if you could give just a brief, it was about Bundy Canyon, but if you could give just a brief.
So RCTC staff presented an item at the request of the city back in January. When we prioritized our CIP projects, council also directed us to request additional funding from RCTC. So we made that request to RCTC. They denied our request for additional funding, but they offered us an alternative, which was the flexibility to move funds between the 3 projects that they had awarded to us, the Bundy Canyon Segment 2, Bundy Canyon Segment 3, and Clinton Keith. And in total, across the 3 projects, the city had received $27 million, but they're split between projects. So our staff's proposal at RCTC was the flexibility for the executive director, Aaron Hake, to move the funds between those projects at the city's request. So that's what was presented. The RCTC Commission voted in favor of that. What that does for us is it allows us to now move forward to advertise for construction, because ultimately we still don't know what the actual project cost is going to be till we get bid results. And so if we get very favorable bid results, maybe we don't need to move funds, or we don't need to move as many. Or if we don't get favorable bid results, we'll know that as well. But this gives us the maximum flexibility to make those requests to RCTC.
Thank you for that, Jason.
If I could just add, I just want to kind of stress what a big deal this was this morning, because project costs have gone up so significantly from when we had originally planned for this project and asked for the funds, that the project was no longer viable. And so had that failed, and it was not a foregone conclusion, this set precedent for RCTC. RCTC had never done this before. And had it failed, Bunny Canyon Segment 2 would have either never happened or would have been many years before we could make it happen. So it was a big win today, and hats off to Jason and his team, and working really hard with Aaron Hake and Jillian Guzado over there at RCTC to come up with a creative solution and get it past the board.
Yeah.
Well, in the interest of time, I'm going to jump to a highlight. I was at several of the ones that Bridget mentioned, and then also Elsinore High School boys baseball. They made it to Division II, third round of CIF finals at Elsinore High School, and so that was a great game. They didn't make it to round 4, but they did really well. They beat the number 1 seeded team and the number 2 seeded team in Division II. So that was a big jump because last year, I believe it was Division 5 or Division 6 that they won the whole thing for. So it was a big jump from Division 5 to Division 2, and they did very, very well. So really proud of them. I just want to say I have twin daughters that graduated high school, so we have some graduates in the house, so very exciting at our house. Very busy time also, and that's all I'm going to report.
I'll keep mine brief. I thought Councilmember Morabito was going to share this one. We had the town hall.
That's right. Tell us.
It was a very, very well-attended event. We had about close to 40 people, right? 40 residents. So thank you to staff for the support and putting that together, for showing up. Also to our public agency partners as well. Thank you for being there. And thank you to Councilmember Morabito for advocating for that event. Do you want to reiterate that it was open citywide? It wasn't just for District 3. But yeah. Hopefully we'll have some more in the near future. That concludes council communications. City Manager, do you have a report?
Nothing else tonight.
Any future agenda items?
I have 2 on here, and I don't know how big they are or not, but one would be data centers. Now, not that we have any planned or anything like that, but the community has probably seen other communities across the country. So whether we just have a city manager report that talks about why they aren't feasible here, but if we can have it addressed by you, if it's some other back to a future agenda, that'd be great. The other one, and I don't want to steal thunder if it's from your district or not, but I mean, I heard earlier about a vacant lot or something on La Estrella. So if there's a way, how would that work? Is there a way that was requested to bring it as an item so the people can have a forum? So anyway.
Probably wouldn't be appropriate to bring that as a discussion item for the council at this point. That's a case that's kind of working through the code enforcement process. At the same time, my understanding is that they are considering potentially filing for conditional use permit. If they do, then there will certainly be public hearings in relation to that.
Maybe that's one of those when code enforcement does their quarterly or something. Since that's been a hot button issue, maybe they're able to put a little line item in there. Something.
All right, so I'm not saying I'm for this. I'm just saying maybe we can discuss. I am hearing some chattering that it's anticipated to have an increase in public comment with the Zoom options, with the call-in options. And so a lot of cities are moving to an earlier time so that we're not here till 2 a.m. if we have a lot of public comments. So just wanted to throw out that as a future agenda item if we want to slide our meeting earlier. Just to talk about it. We're not making any decisions, but it's a conversation a lot of cities are having, and
I'm always up for another conversation.
All right. I don't have any future items to request, so I will now adjourn the City Council meeting and City District meeting at 9:57 p.m.